What's going on, everybody? It's another episode of HLTV Confirmed coming your way. My name is James Banks, and I'll be your host for this evening, as always, as we move on to episode 8. And all of us are in a little bit of a different location right now, except maybe Strike. I'll have to check with him exactly where he is. He tends to try and go home. But I'm going to start with... Oh, you did. See, there you go. You're the smart one. You get to go away from an Airbnb and be in a nice place to just chill yourself out with. But we got Sponge joining us as always. Sponge, you've just been finishing Major. How you doing, mate? Sponge?
Oh, sorry, I was just sleeping on cloud 9. Yeah, I've been doing pretty good. I went to the dentist today. I had a toothache for the last 4 weeks. I had Carmack come with me. For those of you who know who Carmack is, he came translated. That was pretty cool. And the doctor, she told me that she's going to fix the filling, which she did. And if it still have pain, which I may do, I need to have a root canal. So my day's been pretty shit.
Yeah, that's never any fun, mate. I've had this one removed recently. That is a whole bag of pain and no enjoyment there. But luckily you had Carmack on side and ESL making sure that you can get sorted and get ready to get to the champion stage. Striker and Prof.
That helps. It's kind of a pain in the ass, but in a friendly way. Maybe that helps. I don't know.
He might have just been bantering. We know what Carmack can be like. Yes, but Striker and Prof, you've had a week at the major, doing all the reporting, doing all the interviews. How's it been for you guys?
Been fine. Like, the worst thing about it is this Airbnb in which I'm stuck, thanks to Striker managing the booking. So thank you very much for that. Like, Airbnb with 2 forks and 1 knife for like 10 people.
Yeah,
Good
because
job.
that's something I could have known about.
Good job. I think you need it.
You could always go to a supermarket, just buy some.
Yeah, I mean, we just use shit that you don't need utensils for. I don't know. Wherever we were. Things that you can use.
Pizza every night.
The other night, for somebody, I constructed them utensils out of a paper cup, and they ate a spaghetti carbonara with a paper cup.
Wow.
That I basically...
I literally did the same thing in Germany like 3 years ago.
I turned it into like a shovel for them, so it was MacGyver style.
I'm laughing because I have to find the fucking picture and send it to you afterwards, because I've done literally the same thing. Create a shovel out of a pizza box to eat like lasagna. Okay, it wasn't like carbonara, but
that was a Striker
I've done
meme,
that before.
definitely. That's a Striker meme.
You guys aren't just great CSGO pundits, you're also good with your hands. You can make things appear out of nothing, clearly, and turn cutlery out of nowhere.
I mean, that is doing things with your hands, not like assembling IKEA. That's the
Yes, okay, we know, IKEA, we pay for that, we make sure no one suffer them horrible times of wasted moments of building. Was it you, Striker,
I
that enjoyed
disagree.
it, right?
I disagree.
Yeah.
I like it.
Therapeutic, bit weird. Don't get it. Just pay for someone to get it done. Much easier. Probably safer as well. See stuff crumbling behind Striker. But let's get into breaking news and where we're going to start things off with now. I woke up this morning, checked Twitter, and it was just non-stop WESG discussion. And my, oh my. Okay, Nip get the final invite, and the groups come out, and everyone goes, what the actual fuck? So, Lucas, if you can you bring up the HLTV News post with the groups on there, and then everyone else can see, just so they're not up to date, how the groups are panned out, and we can begin to discuss the madness that is these groups and how messed up it actually is. Striker, I know you're going to enjoy this one.
Dude, this is like, the thing is, no matter how you look at it, like, okay, the first thing that I was thinking about, maybe it's like regional, then you look at Group E, and there's literally 4 European teams in there, like Fnatic, Wendigo, ENCE, Movistar. That, like, no matter how you look at it, it doesn't make any sense. It's like literally just random, I feel like.
Yeah.
But what are you saying? Random is the most fair way of doing seeding and doing draws. Everyone gets the same chance to be drawn out of the hat. It's the best thing. That's what people say.
I know.
I've been like semi-upset the whole morning just because it's the same shit all over again, and I don't understand why they really just want to make their event less important, less
prestigious,
less everything, just because they have shit groups. I mean, it's just ridiculous. How can this happen? Like Group H versus Group fucking E. That's unreasonable.
G and H, even like F is pretty bad.
Yes.
I mean F is like, okay, F has like those mixes that could be pretty good. The Russia mix and Mordel. But just the G and H even like D is pretty bad. There's MVP, PK, and that's about it. And like then you get Group E where okay, like sure, Wendigo and Movistar aren't particularly like top teams or anything, but still, it's better than
I
pretty
mean,
much
Vindigo
anybody in
is
Group G
still
or
in
H.
Pro League, I'm pretty sure.
Yeah,
I mean, yeah, of course they're like getting sold or whatever. They have some issues, but they're like a Pro League level team in Europe. That's not easy. So just looking at it, it's just so annoying. And the whole thing is, people said, I think the information is that they put the 4 invited teams in like A, C, E, G, not E, G. Where's the last invited team? A, C, Fnatic.
Fnatic or E.
Yeah, 5 powers actually invited. So
Oh, so
AC,
ACG.
EG were the 4 invited, and then everything else is random, and that's it.
Fuck.
So okay, you can do that, but you're most likely gonna just fuck up your own tournament by doing stuff like that and getting a group like E, which is literally one of the worst possible I mean, out of this random, what you could get with the like the 4 invited teams in different groups, I think this is literally the worst group you could possibly get.
Have we considered the fact that this is run by Ali Sports, which is like Alibaba, which is probably just using this as some form of a tax break, so they don't really care how they run their tournament?
Yeah.
Like,
But if they don't care, why don't they just listen to people that like said the same thing last year?
That's logical and requires effort.
What was that group last year? SK, Big, and Russia, I think.
Yeah.
It was like that the group. While like there were other groups.
And there's also one with like, what was it, like something like Ago, Vololos, and like a few European teams, like 4 European teams.
Fnatic, Ago, Big Vololos was like the second group stage.
Yeah,
but the first group stage, like where everybody is, like all of those random teams are, was Big, Russia, SK.
Yeah.
And like New 4. Okay, that was one bad team. But it's just like this is nothing new, right? This is like it didn't even surprise me when I saw that come out.
Yeah, I mean it didn't surprise me either. I think what is the talking point is like how are teams gonna actually react to this? Because it's happened last year and people warned them about it, said that shit, okay, we're still gonna come. But if it happens again, and it did happen, now there needs to be like something from the teams. This is just It's unreasonable for them to travel to fucking China, like ENCE, and potentially go out to Windigo and finish 17th to 24th or whatever, even though they're legit the top 8 team, surely.
But like, if you just break it down from this perspective, right? This tournament being put on, it's not like, at least from my understanding, it's not considered a tier 1 tournament by any means, right? The only reason that the big names are going is because the prize pool is so big. It just feels to me like this tournament, the way that it's been run historically, there's not much onus put on actually having the best tournament possible. It's just about like, oh, look at this tournament we're running with a shitload of prize money, and we, that's it. Like, that's all it seems like to me, right? And I know that seems ridiculous when you think about it. Well, if you only have to take steps A, B, and C extra to make it good, why don't you just do that? But it just feels like they don't care. That's just the point. I know I'm completely with you. I think it should be seeded, it should be this, it should be that, all this kind of stuff. Like, looking at these groups right now, it doesn't make much sense at all. And if I was one of these teams, like Movie Star Riders, who is definitely not making it out of that Group E, why the fuck would I fly all the way to China to come last? Like, it doesn't make any sense on why these teams would go. Just not go. You don't have to go. A lot of these teams get paid anyway. Why would you? Like, what's the point? There's no real exposure from this. What's the point?
Yeah, I mean, last year, like, half of the group stage matches weren't even streamed anywhere. You couldn't even get the Go TV, so what is the point? I mean, even for Fnatic, look at Fnatic, they just had a shit tournament here, went out, and now they're going to go to WESG and potentially go out in, like, same shit like SK last year in like the first group stage of 2 group stages. Like, why would they go? I think the only thing that you can do to make the tournament organizer actually, like, think about it is to get all of these teams together and say, if you don't do like normal groups, we won't come because this is just a waste of time. So if they can do that, that's the question, and they should be able to do that. It's just if they want to do that. Does Fnatic and NIP and MIBR want to sit down at a table and say, this is bullshit, please do it properly or we won't come?
I guess it will come to show, like, if they actually care enough to do that, though, because they do. In this situation, they certainly have the power. So what you're saying would make perfect sense. If they don't, we'll just gonna get another shit show of just, oh great, lots of money.
It's
No
just,
logic.
yeah, exactly.
No
It's
sense.
just hard to ignore because of the money, right?
Yeah, exactly. You just want to look at it, right? You're like, oh shit, okay, someone's walking away with big money again, and it's all gonna be like just lacing their pockets even further.
Wouldn't you just like? This is the thing that I don't understand here. So obviously, not all of these teams. I wouldn't even say 50%. Actually, I wouldn't even go as far to say 25% of these teams are in the Players Union, right? The Players Association.
Yep.
But isn't this the whole point of the Players Association? Is to, like, in these kind of circumstances, is band together with the people who are part of the Players Association to say, hey, this is this situation. If you can't change it, you can't fix it, you can't do this, you can't do that, then all the people who are part of the Players Association won't attend. Problem is, the amount of money is too much for a lot of these teams to not try and not go to it and potentially win like some free cash. So let's just use a hypothetical, for example. Let's say that the four of us right here were all part of the Players Association and we were all part of different teams going to this event. And let's say that my team was the best team, Banks had the second best team, Prof had the third best, and Striker had the fourth best team, like out of those.
Sounds right.
We went in and like we were all in fucked up groups and we said, all right, guys, like let's sort this out. Like let's have a chat. And we don't come to a conclusion because for whatever reason, Striker's team got put in an easier group, like for whatever reason, because it's random. And he's like, well, actually, my team is still going to go, right? Fuck this whole player union nonsense. Like, we're still going to go. There's no dominion over them as far as I'm aware, right? Like, if they just want to go, then they can go. If they don't want to go, they don't have to go. It's like the same thing with, like, so many different... Like, when I was a plumber, I was a subcontractor. So if other cunts, like, put their rates down, for example, it would fuck me. Like, I couldn't go and charge $600 to dig a hole. I had to charge $400 to dig a hole. So it's the same kind of thing here. If people can't get on the same page, then there's never going to be change. But unfortunately, due to what happened, like with the fucking smoke fix, players think if they just tweet about it, it's gonna fix it. So yeah, I don't know. It's rough.
I mean, what you said makes sense. But the thing is, if they can't unionize around this, then they can't unionize about anything. I feel like. So if they can't do anything in this case, then the whole player union can just shut down and it can literally not exist. If you ask me. It's just like, what's the point then? At least try. At least like say we went to WSG, we said this, and this, they denied, whatever the fuck. And then after all, we couldn't make an agreement to like boycott the tournament, so some people went after all or whatever. Everyone went. But at least try to like put that pressure on them, say, we're not gonna come if you don't change it. Do anything. I don't know. I'm just like very, very disappointed with the whole player union thing. I mean, not disappointed. I didn't really expect much, but what they did so far is literally nothing. So what can you do?
I guess the real thing is, right, if the big names don't attend here, and they just probably fill it with random teams as well. If literally WSG don't care as much as we think they don't care, then it wouldn't matter regardless if teams pulled out and no one watched. I mean, we could just be in a situation where it's just irrelevant still.
Especially with this nationality rule, right? Like a lot of these teams are basically mixes and not even attending their full lineup. Just look at that Russia team, right? That's literally just like a mix of like some of the Russian players, and that's about it. So that's kind of the problem as well. They're not even real teams a lot of the time. So that's another issue where they're just not going to be not going to have that opportunity. Really,
they should also like think about what will happen in the second group stage and what will happen in the playoff seeding. I mean, some teams will also get fucked in that part, as they did last year. So it would make sense for them also to think about, like, even if they go like Russia will probably go through Group F, but who will they play after that? Will they get in a group with NIP and MIBR?
What I'm saying is, like,
not going to go into the playoffs and they won't earn any money. So they should also think about that one.
Yeah, but like those players that are not even in the Players Union, most of them, I imagine. So it's like another thing.
Yeah, but I mean, there's an NIP, G2, Fnatic, and certainly Vindigo. Even if they're not, they're like on that level that they deserve. Yeah. Optic is there, Argo is there. I don't know. So A23 is also mixed, but whatever. Like there are players that are in the player union and that know each other enough to. They should have like enough respect to do more than just put a tweet like, what the fuck is this? And call it a day.
That's kind of the same thing as like those basically like going back to like Power Masters, what happened there. Basically, it comes down to the same thing. Just like players not really researching things properly and just like pushing organizers to hold up to certain standards and stuff like that. So yeah, I agree with what you were saying. Like that's exactly what a players union should be for, and that's obviously not happening.
I think that this stuff happens too often, though, and people might need to start having a bit of a distinction, not just to do with formats. If you think of the PLG event last year, sure, they looked after them, but I think they actually moved their hotel. It felt like the first day they were in some amazing hotel with the racetrack, and then the next day...
Well, yeah, we were in a 5-star to start off with, and basically one day after, we had one night in the 5-star, and then moved over to the other one, which was still a sick hotel. Like, even the second hotel we went to, everyone would have been fine with it regardless. And that was like, it was just a mess of moving around and stuff like that. It was less than ideal. And obviously, we didn't get to work. We just got to chill in the pool. So did a lot of the players a lot of the time as well.
That was announced though. Like it was announced like first night in the like Yas hotel, whatever. Second night, wherever the fuck.
Okay, so that was publicly known. Yeah.
But it was bad planning though. Like to move hotels on the day you actually play games isn't the best.
I'm just so surprised that like teams like NIP, or maybe not teams. Let's try again. Organizations like NIP, G2, Fnatic are allowing their teams to go to these type of tournaments still. Like it hasn't happened, and like, but it could be it could be another one of these ones. They rock up and the players are tweeting like, "Oh, you know, the internet shit," or the hotel has bed bugs, or the monitors are only 60 hertz, or this kind of stuff. You're going into the unknown with an event like this. This is why, like Blast or ESL, or when Faceit runs a tournament, or DreamHack, for example, they've had to build up their credibility over a long period of time. And people at home, like, when there's a small delay on any of those tournaments, or maybe there's like a PC issue or a server issue or some shit, are up in arms. But they don't actually realize the amount of stuff that those tournament organizers actually do that is so much different to when, like, these guys go to a shit tier event. Like, there are some people running shit tier events. That's just the way it is. Who are those cunts running stuff out of your part of the world, Prof? What were they called?
E-Frag?
Those motherfuckers. They're running shit tier events, right? That's what a shit tier event is. And, like, you just have to really distinguish between the two of those. And if I was an NIP, a G2, a Fnatic, you know, the upper management there, and I saw a tournament like this, I would need some guarantees in writing. Like, I would want some kind of form of payment up front before sending my team, in case it is shit. I'd want, like, guarantees of, like, hotels and all this kind of stuff. I wouldn't be sending my players halfway across the world to go to a tournament that doesn't have pedigree around it. It has a shitload of prize money, sure. Does that prize money get paid out? Apparently. But is it worth putting your players who are on the road for 300 days a year to an event like that, which could just cause them, like, emotional and physical stress? It's like, probably not. So, I don't know. This is a broader point that I'm making right here, but for WSG, sure, they need to really, really look at their groups if they want to have anything decent of an event, and maybe try and address that whole point with the nationality, because that doesn't make any sense in 2019.
No. Yeah, we've gone way past that, right? There was someone in chat just saying about, like, oh, should we see, like, a football cup style? I think the worst thing you do in CS is take away from just what the core teams are. I don't care about nationalities. I just want to see the best teams and the best players play, so...
I mean,
that always
there's
happens anyway.
Space for some of these for these tournaments. The problem is, like, okay, not anymore, but used
Not
to be
tier
the problem
1.
that there have been like 4 with that fucking Indonesian thing that I forgot what it was called as well. Oh yeah, that's it.
Still exists.
That's it. Yeah. So with that, WSG, TWC, and I don't know if there was something else that I'm forgetting now, but there was just a bunch of them.
Clan-based
so that was like
Nation Cup, maybe.
That's like a
That's
long,
going way
long,
back.
long
That's
time
going
ago.
way back.
That's a really long time ago. But like from back in 1.6, these tournaments actually were actually pretty good because the nations actually wanted to put together like side lineups and stuff like that. So for me,
I think that's because we had a lack of tournaments back then in comparison to now as well.
Yeah,
I think
with
with the
like,
current circuit,
sure.
I think with the current circuit, right, if you had that same situation as we back then, it wouldn't happen. Like for me, the benefit of having like a WCG and an ESWC was I was a shit tier UK player, but that would be an opportunity to play and actually do well, because like Four Kings, for example, didn't ever have a 5-man UK roster, the same as like fucking Dignitas and stuff like that most of the way through. I think now and where we are, if they're going to run it like this, it should only be to maybe non-professional players, right? That would be pretty cool. Maybe we see some fucking up-and-coming players and they're all from one nationality. That would be probably dope. Like some players that aren't pro level.
Right?
Yeah, but they don't seem to care about that. Like, if we go down the route of, like, come on, we're sat here. The money is great, right? It's all good. the tournament obviously ran okay last time around, not like a complete bomb out shit show. But again, it's the same things as they're having issues now. So they clearly don't care to improve it, and they're clearly not listening to what the players are saying. And like Chad said, tweeting's not going to do anything. So they need to fucking get together and kind of make a decision.
Tweeting at the Western companies maybe will make some impact, but tweeting at WESG, a Chinese company, they don't really give a fuck about Twitter.
But
that
who's
literally
running
doesn't
it
touch
for them?
I don't know. Like last year, they did it with StarLadder. This time, it's not with StarLadder. That's for sure, because UCC has been running the online qualifiers in Europe. I don't know who's helping them on the LAN part. If it's UCC, I'm not really hopeful about that LAN. That's also something that people need to actually think about before going to this event. StarLadder has experience with working also in like with these like Chinese companies, working on like other parts of the world, even outside of Ukraine, where they have their own events which are pretty good. And who's going to be running the LAN part this time? I have no idea. So I don't know. And UCC, definitely their LANs have been like only a couple of them, and they've been pretty bad. So if they don't have something in the pocket, that can be a shit show. Just about the whole World Cup thing, like football World Cup, in football you have like a 4-month off season every year. In CS you have obviously zero weeks considering the major. So where do you put something like that, like an exhibitional whatever fun tournament? There's no space in the
Christmas
year
time?
for that. Ah yeah, that's good. That's good. Why not?
Why not?
Who
Why
celebrates?
not?
Who has family anyway?
Well, the Chinese don't celebrate Christmas when the rest of us do, so it makes sense, right?
Yes.
Well, we'll have to wait and see if anything does change. I'm sure we'll talk about it next week if it comes up and is hopefully something does happen. I just think if you're the top teams and your actual teams, like if you're the NIP and stuff like that, you're the fucking G2s, all of those teams need to get together and just say, look, we're not going to go unless you sort your fucking shit out. And if that doesn't change anything, then they know it's a joke anyway, and they'll probably still go regardless. And then we can just say, well, fuck that event.
I expect nothing to happen, and that just shows like the kind of the hypocrisy of these like top level teams that like to pat each other on the back, say we're all good friends, we're fighting for stuff, except when it's like $200,000 that I can win, then fuck everyone. I'll go for that.
All right, well, let's move on to our next part of breaking news. And this one was coming into looking at the new team that has just been announced with Scream & Co. As I start to bring it up, I'm sure you can bring it up as well, Lucas. So we've got Draken, Hampus, Scream, Existence, and HS. And HS, bloody hell, how long's he been out of the picture? But I think that's been quite a while now.
He hasn't been out of the picture. He's just been not visible in the picture.
Yeah,
he's been there, but you kind of have to look a bit deeper to see him, because he's been in those Tempo Storm lineups with Fox and stuff like that, which hasn't been working out. So yeah, he's still there, but last time he was relevant was that like BGL Krakow major with Penta. That was his like kind of breakout, and more or less just as the end of his like
because they all got picked apart afterwards, and it didn't fit like that. So is this a team, Prof, and we'll start with you because you were talking about it, that you think has any hope? I know you love a bit of Hampus.
I was just talking about when we were talking about like Swedish CS and like in-game leaders or whatever.
Yeah,
he is a guy that didn't get an opportunity at like at the top levels. Even when he had an opportunity, the teams kind of fell apart pretty quickly. Is this a good team? I don't think so. I don't think it makes any sense. I'm kind of sad that he didn't stay in the Swedish scene that kind of needs a player like him. Whatever, Draken, Scream, Existence, HS, I can't, what can I really say about this? I can't say much.
It's one of those things though, right? This is where this is another point of where distinction needs to be made. Do we consider them a top 20 team? No. Would they, potentially break in there if they have like a really good DreamHack Open event or something? Maybe, if other teams are doing quite poorly. But I think that if they want to be a professional team competing at a level within the tier 3 realms, then fine. But it's not a team that's ever going to do damage, right? It's just never going to happen, unfortunately. There's not enough pieces in this puzzle that make sense. Like, taking a risk on a lot of different elements here. You don't have a solid base. You don't have, you're not building around a new superstar. You're building around older talent. And the fact that you were talking about Hampus as being an in-game leader, well, they have Existence in the roster. So I'm pretty sure that he's going to be doing the majority of that, So it's just one of these teams as well, and this is the same consideration that has to come into place when we talk about like a heroic or an optic or teams like that. Can they be dangerous within the realms of the top 20? Yeah, but are they an upset team? Yeah, but are they ever going to be a consistent top 10 to top 5? Probably not in their current iteration. So it's just about setting or managing expectations, and I think the expectations of this team is maybe just a platform for people like Scream, like Hampus, like Draken to rebuild their careers or build their careers for Hampus, for example, and then get picked up somewhere else. Because in terms of being a team that's actually going to get anything done, I very highly doubt it. There's a guy in chat just bantering to see if he can get a reaction called LC303. Hello, LC303. I've given you your time of day. You can go away now. Thank you for coming. Thank you for harassing me. That was good fun.
Nothing's going to change in CS, is it really? Nothing's going to change like that.
I mean, the bottom line for this team is that it's just basically a bunch of rejects, right? It's just another one of those teams that just come together because they're all free and they're all like semi-high profile, and that's how they put it together, basically. So we know how those teams usually end up. They just end up changing all the time or just completely disbanding. So I don't have high hopes for this.
They did qualify for the UML League LAN finals, if I'm correct.
That's pretty good. What's UML?
That's that
UML is
shit
like
fucking unicorn league.
Yeah, that's like the third
Dude,
online
fucking
league.
piece of shit.
That Valiant's played 54 online matches and then a best of 3 to qualify for the LAN. So
54
basically,
online matches.
Holy shit!
Yeah,
and
you're never gonna get paid. You're gonna get paid in unicorns and all this shit, and it don't work. So fuck that. Big fucking shit show.
That's
I heard you say paid in unicorns. Not unicorns. I'm like,
paid in unicorns. To be fair, unicorns is more likely than getting any of the fucking money from it. That bloody shit show.
I don't know. It started as like some kind of a team organized league. Like people have stakes. Like every org has stake in the league. But now a team called Uruguay, which is the team we're talking about, which, if I'm not mistaken, is just like a Simpsons joke where Homer finds Uruguay and says "you're a gay" on the globe. So whatever, they qualified, and that's like a sick organization that is taking part in the United Masters League LAN finals in somewhere in Germany. I don't know, but
probably won't happen. Probably won't get the money. Money I'm still missing as well.
I'm pretty sure the LAN will happen, but yeah, whatever. Everything that's tied to like crypto stuff, I'm really skeptical about.
Well, I'm still waiting for my fucking paycheck when they left me stranded in fucking shithole of Germany. So, fuck those cunts. Stay away from them. Avoid them at all costs. Stay with legit people. Let's move on, because I'm triggered. Prof, Striker, your betting time, lads. And Prof's probably laughing all the way to the bank, as Striker is going to be in a position where maybe you won, maybe you didn't.
Do we have the graph to see?
Come on, Lucas, give us that magical graph. Come on. This is going to be amusing. Oh, dear.
Wow.
That's pretty bad, yeah.
Where did it all go so... Yeah, I honestly thought you had a good chance. No, but I thought that's... The last one is like a complete drop-off. Yeah, actually, that was your best... When we sat down and discussed it last week, that was probably your best chance.
Yeah, that's the thing. But the problem is, last week... But come on, that was like fucking online top tier 5. Yeah, somehow, of course, Prof fucking won hit. But to be fair though, the previous ones were much worse because this one was just random as fuck because we didn't really have any other options. Look, I'm gonna own it, but at this point, I have to win my next slip, which obviously you're about to see what I put together. And yeah, if I don't win that, I lost because this is the last chance. This is the last episode where we do this.
You're gonna have to have gone really fucking insane.
Not that that much.
So
okay, just for people asking in chat, this graph, by the way, is Prof and Striker have a bet every time. If you haven't watched HLTV Confirmed, it's funny as fuck because both of these guys spend their lives living and dreaming about Counter-Strike. And Prof goes in with some wild bets. Striker's actually been most sensible, and Striker's just bombed out. And the graph is the decline of his betting and his hope.
Last week, I won 300 euros betting on No Chance, Argo, and W7M.
Thank you very much.
Just to clarify.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
I mean, to be fair though, now at least we go back to the major stuff. So hopefully I can actually at least like not make a complete like bomb out. But we'll see.
Let's see what you got.
Am I gonna start? Okay.
I can start actually.
Okay, go for it.
No, you can't. No, I can't.
I am.
Totally
Look,
jump
but this
in.
is actually quite sensible. I'm just gonna put out the number, right? I bet the rest of my money, basically, the 197 on this slip, right? Because that's the only way that I can make it back. And it's something like 5.69. There we go. It's now up. So I can actually go like above 1,000 euros if I win this one. And it's not even that bad. Like if you look at it, Liquid and Astralis to win their quarterfinal matches, which is like they're heavily favored. I very much doubt that either of them is gonna lose. Like if I lose that one on one of those two matches, like I'm just gonna concede and just like go hang myself because obviously like nothing is right in this world. The other two quarterfinals I actually went with like to go into 3 maps, and obviously those are the risky ones, and that's why I had to go kind of risky because like I had to go to like a ×6 multiplier. I just went with
this is actually
it's
pretty
sensible.
good.
It is sensible, and I feel like I have a pretty good chance because then at Renegades MIBR, I'm not 100% sold on MIBR. We're gonna get to that, and obviously Renegades surprised. I feel like they could definitely take MIBR to 3 maps, and even if like Renegades win and MIBR take a third map, I still win this, right? And same thing with Navi FaZe. Like Sure and FaZe have not looked very good in this last match against Cloud9. They actually were barely convincing aside from the blunder on T-side cash. So I feel like they could take a map off Navi. And that's kind of my thinking there. Just like those two potentially like upset type matches going into 3 maps, and the other two are just like heavily favored that I just went for those.
Pretty nice. I mean, I did like a basic bet. I had no idea what you're gonna do because I couldn't really anti-strat that. I didn't know if you're gonna go for singles or doubles. I didn't want to invest too much.
I couldn't go for singles. Like I had to go for.
I don't know what you could do like combined multiple bets or something. I just did like the basic bets and put like 50 euros on it. It's nothing special.
How much do you get out of this?
It doesn't matter for Prof at this point, does it? You can just chill.
No, it does, because if we both win, okay, yeah. If I win, I actually win.
Yeah.
Oh.
Because he invested like a shit ton.
Yep.
And not a big pair. So. No, these actually like going to 3 maps. This could actually happen. Now I'm pretty scared. Fuck.
Yeah, there's actually
I told you, like
I
didn't even have to go that crazy. Like, sure, I had to go into those. The thing is, like those map things, they don't never work out for me. But I just had to go with them. I'd rather win for those because the actual match winners were like MIBR were like 1.5, and you have Navi 1.55. And if I went for those, I would have just barely like touched. I would have barely got within touching distance from you, so I couldn't win. So I had to go slightly like.
I mean,
more risky.
it's okay. I still think something will go wrong.
Yeah,
the thing is,
I feel like
this is what makes me laugh about this, right? Because if anyone's been following the HLTV guys that do their like predictions on who they think is going to win matches in the major, Prof, aren't you sat like pretty much dead last or near the bottom?
Yes,
and you get absolutely reamed out. The moment I saw it tweeted out, I was like, at the bottom where Prof belongs.
I honestly don't care about it. I was thinking about not playing, and I said like, okay, I'll play just to like get some more Twitter interactions, whatever the fuck. And then I realized like if you're in the middle, no one's gonna mention you ever. So I'm just like gonna go full YOLO. So either I'm gonna be first or last, and people are gonna just like bash on me. But at least you'll be remembered. You'll be remembered for something. Being bad.
Everyone in Twitch chat right now, go and follow Prof on Twitter so he gets more Twitter interactions, and maybe he'll do a good job from there on for the rest of the stages. Give him some love.
Because he's eliminated. Actually.
Oh, is that?
We actually they eliminated
you guys
the
are harsh.
teams. The worst part is like I only made it through because like we're two of us. I'm basically like in the first out of bottom 8. So there's 2 of us outside of the bottom 7 or bottom 8. So I would have been eliminated as well if Duck didn't basically have the same amount of points as me.
Oh man.
So we're like,
all right. So you're both not doing too
well.
Yep. That's a rip. That's a big rip.
Yeah, but all in all, this is the last bet of this like, whole whole thing. So whoever loses has to eat.
It's actually
like,
got
some-
exciting on this last one. I
some-
expected it just to be the
this-
blowout. I thought it was
I-
just Prof like rinsing him.
I thought like after I lost the last one and Prof won his, which is like fucking 300 euros on tier 10 CS and just like super random matches. I thought I was done, and then I figured out that I actually can put like $200 on a pretty sensible multiplier, which like okay, fair enough.
Yeah.
All right. Well, let's see how it goes. I'm looking forward to next week more. Literally, this has come down to a conclusion I didn't expect because I didn't think there was any way you would ever have a chance of winning Striker. So fair play for actually finding an opportunity in this. Now, let's get to our Legends stage discussion. It's all happened. It was madness unfolding once again. And Chad, I'm going to go and start with you on this one because you always go against them, but your boys are getting it done. The furthest an Australian team has ever made it.
Yeah, and I think it's very surprising in the fashion that they did it, right? It's because they actually ground out every win. They had to prove themselves for it. And in the first week when the Challenger Series was on, they were vocal about not liking that seeding system. But if they went through in like a cushier draw, like let's say, for example, if Vitality had gotten through and the only good team that they had beaten the entire time was NIP, which would have been the case, right?
Mm-hmm.
They didn't feel like they had beaten anybody else. Sure, they pushed RV, but then they wouldn't have been legitimized in the same way as what Renegades are right now, because Renegades have actually had to beat teams that we consider good time and time again to get to this point. And for me, you know, watching them win and getting that far and, you know, knowing that they put in a shitload of work to get to this point and what that means for like Australian gaming as a whole, that's like, it's a really big deal, right? We're from a part of the world where gaming right now, it's slowly growing, but it's you know, every step of the time, we're so much further away from Europe and America where, you know, all the big money and all the focus is around gaming. Asia doesn't really, you know, give too many fucks about Counter-Strike as it is. So for us as a nation, it's such a huge deal. Like, people need to consider we only have 26 million people in our entire country. And we, you know, compare that to America, which we're just a little bit smaller than in terms of land mass. There's like contiguous United States, in case some people want to like pull up the stats just so you're aware. Like, they have 330 million people. So like it's a really big deal, and I think it's great because it's legitimate in the style they've done it. Azza, I think, has been doing a really good job in-game leading. They've had some they've been doing anti-stratting as well as having their own strategies. They've been getting the clutches done. The org, I think, is really paying off for players like Liaz and JKS. But all in all, you know, they're just looking well-rounded as they move forward. I think it was a big surprise for me to see them go through in a 3-1 fashion. I don't think they would have made it if they had to go into a 2-2 matchup and they had to play like an NIP or something like that. I don't think they would have been able to do it, you know, with the pressure against them. But yeah, it's remarkable, really. I think that's they have to be the biggest revelation of the entire major series so far.
And I want to just touch on this a little bit further with Gratisfaction, because when I first saw him come into that roster, I think it was the Star Series we did, Chad. We did Star Ladder, and he was looking okay-ish, like nothing too special, but like holding his position, quite passive warp and how he was. But my God, over this major, he's had clutches. He's not just been dominating with the orb. Like, he has impressed. I've just been liking what I've seen from both him and Liaz, to be fair.
Yeah, and look, so Liaz's stats aren't great, but if you look at the positions and the roles that he's playing, like, he's doing his job. If he was contributing like a little bit more so, then yeah, you know, it'd be good. I saw some people in chat comparing the size of Denmark, etc. Yeah, you're also part of Europe, you dumb fucking cunts. So
there's a lot more money there. It's a lot more developed.
A lot more money.
Like, you got to think.
A lot, but you actually have internet that works. Where I live in Australia to the East Coast, which is where everybody else lives, I play with 70 to 80 ping, and my download speed was 500 kbs. So, you know, people really are moronic. I think that's pretty safe to say. But, you know, there's,
and remember, all your qualifiers you're playing against in Australia as well. Sorry to cut you there, chap.
Yeah.
But you're playing against Asian teams, which are also fucking miles away as well, and the pings don't help there either.
Yeah, there's a lot of different factors, right? We don't get to play against, you know, the majority of where good Counter-Strike is. And I think it was back in like 2015 or something like that was like the first time an Australian CSGO team had beaten European teams to qualify for a major in the first place. And now they're in the top 8 of a major, right? So I think there's there's a lot of a lot that's happened here, and I think that the mixing the old blood with the young, and then you've obviously got Jacob the Norwegian, who's just the rock in the team. It seems good, but as usual, I'm still never going to predict them to win a game, just so I don't jinx them.
You don't want to jinx them at all, Prof. You guys, striker, anything to add to that on the?
Yeah, I mean, when this team came together, I was skeptical, mostly just because of like the in-game leading factor, like who is gonna do it, how good is he gonna do it, and I've been like getting proved wrong time and time again. Like every time I like move the
Doesn't take much.
move the line, but yeah, every time like move the expectations a bit higher, it's like okay, this is their level. This is okay. There'll be like a top 15 team maybe. Then they like push it like borderline top 10. Then they like just move. Just every time they manage to like surpass my expectations. So props to them. Didn't really see this coming, but they are just a good team, decent team overall.
Yeah, I have to agree with that because even like after they lost to Astralis, like up to that point, I was just like starting to get a feeling that they're just riding the wave of confidence where they just like obviously they went undefeated in that first stage, then they beat ENCE, then they beat FaZe, beat Astralis after a fucking massive comeback on Mirage. That was a really impressive one for me because Astralis does not do this. Astralis never loses these. Like it literally, I feel like it literally never happened for them to lose like a 14-5 lead on any map ever, like since they got together. Like I don't have that confirmed, but I feel like I don't remember this happening. So for Renegades to be able to do that, and then obviously they lost the second and third map pretty one-sidedly. The third map 16-2 and Inferno. So I thought they were just gonna fall on their face a little bit, and just like the confidence would just go down. And then they immediately won the match that got them through to the playoffs against Vitality. Like sure, you can talk about Vitality being not that experienced together, like not that well-rounded because of like fairly recent changes, not that much time and stuff like that. But they have actually been a team that just barely didn't make it through. So you can't really have anything to say against Renegades and what their run was because they beat legit teams. They beat two teams that made it to the playoffs. They actually played pretty well against Astralis, at least on the first map, obviously. And then they beat a team that barely didn't make it in Vitality. So that's a pretty really impressive route.
Aren't faulting.
I was pretty vocal on Twitter when this was before they picked up the new players, right? It's when Nifty went, and I was saying like this is it. They should just like dissolve the team and let Azure and JKS get picked up by another North American squad. So like not as a duo, just individually or whatever, so that they could like have a chance to try and show their worth, right, under a new system, all this kind of stuff. And I was very vocal about that because I got to play with them firsthand, so I knew the potential that was there, right? Like I could see how good they could be, and it just felt like if they were going to rebuild again under an Australian like banner, they were going to bring in two like basically rookies, right? Like let's be honest, you're coming from playing just maybe a couple of international lands to a team that's been living and competing in North America and then playing in the big tournaments on a regular basis. They're rookies to that world, so I thought that this was going to be just another, oh yeah, we'll add a couple guys and we'll see what happens and we'll make another roster change in 6 to 8 months, like what had happened with Renegades consistently. I think that this boot camp has really helped them a lot. Like obviously they've been in Poland now for it's like 6 weeks or something insane. It's a very long time. So like I think that's helped them a lot. And I think a bigger problem is going to be after this event when they go back to North America, their level is going to drop off. It's just going to, because you're not playing against the best teams in the world on a consistent basis. So they've learned a lot and they've come a very long way. But I just think when they go back and they don't have as much to play, there's the same caliber of teams isn't there to play against and all that kind of stuff. I think their level will definitely drop off, but I don't think it's going to be as stark as they're not going to drop off to being the 20th best team in the world anymore. There's going to be a decent period of time where they can compete for the top 10 spot, and I think you guys have them as like 8th now in HLTV rankings, which is it's just crazy.
They actually stayed in the same spot compared to last week. Didn't move that much. I think they lost something from like the ending of last year, I feel like.
They had I am Chicago, right? They had a good placing there. Was it the Pro League finals? No, Pro League finals was Denmark. I'm pretty sure it's Chicago.
But yeah, 8th place. That's by far the highest they were at, isn't it? Like they had some like 15 as the best before, or
I'm pretty sure if you open their
I'm going
profile,
into
then
that
it
now.
says peak rank. I'm pretty sure it's 8. They never
Yeah, it is 8.
were higher
It
than
is
this.
8.
Doesn't make
And
sense.
they had like a period at the start of 2018 where they were 10th.
That's
They didn't
that's
stay there.
as you said, Sponge, at the beginning. That's the best thing about this new format, that no one can say, okay, they fluked through like 3 best of ones or whatever. They had like easy opponents. They didn't. They had like pretty tough opponents. Played best of 3 deciders to go through. Best of 3 decider against Australis, which they, if that was a best of 1, maybe, who knows, maybe they could have gone through that. People say, oh, this is bullshit, the format shit, this team is like lucky, whatever. But yeah, they didn't. They lost that, went to Vitality, won that. Mega legit, love the format. Whoever
Yeah.
says it's bad is just needs to go back and watch previous majors and look at the brackets, look at the draws that we had in the playoffs, that we had like literally in the first match like of the group stage, Astralis Liquid or Astralis Navi. Like, what is that stuff? That's unreasonable.
Look,
totally unreasonable.
Anybody who tries to fault this system or like the changes in the best of 3s or anything along those lines, or people who critique like the seeding not being harsh enough, all that kind of stuff, they all have internal biases, right? Like they're either like a fan of a team, or they're part of a team, or they're somehow connected to something along those lines where it hasn't been the best outcome or the most easy outcome for them. Like people go, oh, you look at Astralis' run, it was really easy to get to this point. Yeah, but they're also the best team in the world. Like people really don't look objectively at a lot of things in life, and that's super frustrating. But those are the people who are just going to walk around life looking at their shoes, right? So it's no skin off my nose. It's just that vocal minority of people who don't use their brains are the ones who bother to make a Reddit account and make stuff vocal, and they actually think that their opinion matters in the world. Like people genuinely, there are some people like Reddit is actually fantastic for feedback when they have an open forum discussion with people who are mindful and can bring different points of view without getting butthurt over things. But the problem is, in the world we live in, there's way too much tribalism and way too many people wanting to be attached to some form of a group to make themselves feel better. And that's the truth of the matter here, is that people will critique this stuff based off the fact that it hasn't worked out for their tribe or their group of people, which it's just the sad truth of humanity.
That's the
We're
thing.
getting real
Like,
deep.
I mean that
Oh yes.
potentially this can still be like tweaked, like the elo. Maybe some teams could lose more. Maybe they should lose, like gain a bit less or whatever. People quote like the Avangard run. They had Liquid, then they lost to Liquid, beat NRG, beat FaZe, then lost to Navi and ENCE. Say like, oh, this is a rough run, only because they're ranked 15. So there are multiple reasons why they're ranked 15. I honestly think that was too low, and we did our rankings and we put them a bit higher. Of course, that kind of sucks, but moving through that in the last game, it only matters to go through, right? And in the last game, they were playing ENCE, who were 0-2. They were about to be eliminated, didn't look good. And they didn't beat ENCE. And they didn't beat ENCE not because ENCE played some insane CS and they were, I don't know, like one player was sick for 4 days, and then the 5th day he was miraculously recovered and played his best CS of all time. It was just because Avangard didn't play well in the last game, and they lost because they didn't play well, and that's why they're not in the playoffs, and that's it. So they could have maybe gotten a bit, like, it seems like a hard run, but in the end, looking at every team's run and all of the teams that went to the playoffs and the teams that didn't go to the playoffs, it seems like by far the fairest, however bullshit that is. But it seems like no one was really like gifted a way into the playoffs, and no one was really stolen and like eliminated by playing too many good teams. And it's miraculously wonderful actually to look at this and see, like, remembering all of the shit, like groups of death we had, like random draws in the Swiss that gave us like, I don't know, and then Australis playing MIBR in the quarterfinals and stuff like that. Just looking at this, we need to be thankful and just be like reasonable and say, okay, maybe this can be tweaked a bit, but not be totally, as you said, biased to certain teams or whatever.
The thing is, it's just, it might not be perfect from like the underdog's perspective, but it's very close to being perfect. So, like, you can tweak a little bit the reseeding potentially, like how harsh it is on like massive upsets, like with Fnatic, losing to the 16th and then 15th, and they were like, I think they ended up at like eighth place. Like some of those, the really harsh ones, I feel like could have been a little bit tweaked, and that's like basically the only thing that you can complain about. Like outside of that, if that's the only thing you can complain about, that's a really good format. It's just like potentially like very, very tiny little tweaks for when like the teams just seem to basically misseed some of their opponents at the start, and them getting bashed because of that. Like something like Avant-Garde, I feel like I agree with that. That might have been a little bit off, but it's just like they still lost to three teams who went 3-2. If I'm not mistaken.
I think with that as well, if you consider that whole situation right there of teams underseeding or overseeding teams, you need to think about, well, it's not that we need to think about, it's that probably the timing of this event played into that a lot as well. Because if we had like more months played of Counter-Strike, then I think, the seeding might have been a little bit more fair. But when MIBR, for example, hadn't played a single official with this roster since 2017, and then they get seeded as highly as what they did, you question, is it just the name value that gets them that seed? And then Avant-Garde, who played some pretty good Counter-Strike, I thought, got pretty hard done by. Whereas like some of the other bigger names were put above them, and it kind of just feels like it was because of that fact, right? It kind of just feels like because of the name value. And that's fine in a way. I feel exactly like what you're saying. It worked itself out in the wash. You could look at all those 2-2 matches, and I think that they all made sense, right? Because personally, if you get to that point of the tournament and you have teams like the teams who went 0-2 and had to come all the way back, like ENCE, okay, they got pretty lucky to get Avant-Garde, all things considered. But Avant-Garde as well, we were just saying, are a team who should have been seeded above 15th place. So you have to pick and choose the battles when you're talking about that kind of stuff. I think all those matchups were really good matchups, like on paper, and we got some good games out of them. The fact that I'm just surprised like about that FaZe Cloud9 game, considering the stark contrast of those two teams at this point, that FaZe made it look so easy and then almost choked. Like I didn't think they'd have trouble closing those games out.
Oh god.
Yeah. That was
so awkward.
Was
so awkward.
So bad.
Oh my.
I felt like the thing is like this kind of a choke you would expect. Okay, I'm going to mention ENCE now, even though obviously they kind of turned it around. But we've been talking about ENCE and them kind of having the tendency to choke like some of these big leads, or at least like let other teams like get way too close for comfort. And that's like the type of a team that you would expect this from, right? But not FaZe, who literally has like the most veteran roster out of almost all the teams there. Like, okay, outside of maybe like the top 3 or something. But like FaZe literally looked like they just completely stopped thinking about what they were going to do on the T side and just like went randomly most of the time. And then finally towards the end they started to have some plan, but obviously that was already a little bit too late. Cloud9 already had momentum as fuck, and then FaZe had a hard time breaking through their stacks and stuff like that. In the end, they just closed it out with a fake that was actually pretty well thought out, and that looked like, and even I think on the stream, it was said that it was actually YNK who kind of came up with that to close it. But this is like literally something that you would expect from an inexperienced team who just doesn't know how to close, who gets way too confident for big leads. But these guys have been in this position before where they lead something like 12-3 and they just came back on or whatever. So this was really uncharacteristic of an experienced team for sure.
Do you think that there's some of it, because obviously like Yanko tried to do, well, I'm assuming, and it's from the outside looking in, even though Yanko's a friend of mine, I don't talk shop with him about what he's bringing to a team. I think, leave him to his stuff, right? But from the outside, at least from my perspective, MIBR looked a lot more like execute heavy. That looked like that's how they wanted to establish their game plan early, when he first kind of joined, right? It looked like a lot of executes, a lot of set pieces. And with that in mind, if you brought that similar thing across to FaZe, it's like these players haven't done that for a very long time. Even when Carrigan was in game leading, they still had a couple of set pieces, but it wasn't full execute heavy, right? So there's probably a period of time, a bit of lag right now, a bit of input lag of the game plan that they've talked about and them having to now learn what they have been told to do in officials and apply that under pressure. Whereas this historically has just been a team of players who just kind of have a loose structure and work really well with each other. And now they've been given protocols and contingencies. And you can see sometimes they look a little bit uncomfortable or unsure of the decision making. which is something we wouldn't normally attest to players like Olaf and Nico, etc., because they're usually great in those kind of positions. So I think it's needed that they take more of a structural route right now, but it sucks that, well, it's a good thing and a bad thing. They're going to play a team like Na'Vi they are going to play Na'Vi, right, in the opening round of the championship bracket, and that's one of the games where you want them to be able to play more heads up, because Na'Vi, like, they're going to milk the mid rounds, but if you just shut them out and it's not simple and electronic last alive or Flamey like he played in the last few days of that tournament, then it's really hard for them to get back in. Whereas for FaZe, let's say it's a 2-on-4 with any of their two players, it's possible for them to win it. So I think it's just an adjustment period for FaZe right now. I'm not sure, we've spoken about this before, I'm not sure if they're going to keep Adren going forward. I guess that depends on the type of result they get here and how comfortable they feel. But yeah, for them to struggle against Cloud9 in that sense, I think the fact that they got such a huge lead and couldn't close was very troublesome. Even after like that whole diffuse situation that went down on that A bomb site, like that was, he almost defused the bomb for a total of like 14 seconds, right? When that was crazy that he didn't actually win that round. In the moment, it didn't feel like a big deal, right? Because of the scoreline. But when you reflect on how close that game got in the end, it's like, holy shit. Like, if he had won that round, maybe we would have had it gone to the third, or maybe we would have had a different story on our hands.
Yep. All right, let's talk about some of these 0-3 teams then, right? NRG and Big. Obviously, NRG being the massive shock factor in there. Is it just a bad day at the office? Was this underprepared, or where do you think it went, guys?
I'm gonna take it from from a little bit of hindsight, and that is that we have just learned that potentially Tariq could be replacing Fugly if that gets confirmed. Obviously, that's one of the rumors that came out, I think, even today or yesterday, was it? And that you have to think about when this came into play, right? Because it's so close to the major, it's so soon after the major, that if it's true, it feels like it must have started like that whole thing must have started before the major. And so then you have to look at like their motivations and stuff like that, if some of the players perhaps didn't have their heart in it, and everything like that. At the same time, you also have to look at the close matches that they played, because they literally played every single map close. Like every single map went to like 16, 13, 14, and the last two in overtime. So like, sure, they should have beaten Complexity. That was the big one, I feel like. NIP, that could have been like, NIP just have like these peaks where they can beat teams that are technically better than them. And Avantgarde obviously were one of those teams that we got surprised by. So sure, Energy shouldn't have gotten to that point, but you can at least understand it. And then Complexity was the rough one. So I don't know. Generally, I feel like Energy's showing wasn't as bad as people kind of portrayed to be, but obviously it was a massive disappointment because we expected them to go to the playoffs.
I mean, they're one of the teams that at least I said would surely not go 0-3. Most likely will go to the playoffs because they have long-standing roster, all of this. So I was proved wrong. My predictions are shit. Whatever. But just looking at this NIP game, NIP NRG on Nuke. Some people say why pick Nuke. I mean, NRG are kind of comfortable on that map. Top fragger for NRG, Daps. Bottom fragger, Cirque, 12 kills. On NIP, Daps has 23 kills. NIP Rez 33 kills. Forest 31 kills. And they lose 16-14. I mean, this is one of those matches where it's just like NIP's map pool at the moment, as I joked to Striker like yesterday. It's like maps where NIP are good on, it's like maps where Forest goes ham. And then maps where they're not good on, it's Forest not going ham. Doesn't matter what map, like what side, whatever. It just, he sometimes turns on, and what can you do? You lose the map.
I actually we were talking about Forest in the green room the other day, and they were like, wow, he's always putting up these big numbers. But if you actually go to his profile on HLTV.org and you look at his stats, right? And
for this event, he's not that sick. Like overall.
No. The point I'm trying to get to here is if you look at when he plays against anybody in the top, I don't know, top 10, not the current top 10, but you know what I mean by that, like the upper echelon of teams. You look at the matches, right? So I've got a list right here. So we'll take the Vitality game out because that hadn't happened before while I was talking about this in the green room. But MIBR is a team that we would consider comfortably in the top 10. In that game, he had 0.79 and 0.78 rating. But then Hellraisers, they're like a cusp team. He had a 1.16. Liquid are a top, definitely a top 10 team. He had a 1.18 there. But you go down the list, he's got some huge ratings against names like Vici. He's got, 1.35s. He's got versus Vega 1.78. You go down, all of his are over like ones. And then you go to when he's late last year when they're versing good teams. Astralis 0.85. MIBR 0.64, Navi 0.8, Astralis 0.38, Astralis 0.86, Astralis 0.68. You go down, okay, then they play North, another cusp team of the top 10 kind of thing, gets a 1.46, a 1.38, and then you keep going down. Fnatic 0.81, 0.92. Like, it just does, it seems like he can, when he's versing these, I'm going to use the term no-namers, but I don't mean that right. I mean that, like, they're not the current top 4, top 5 best teams in the world, that he's just going to have his way with them. But when he has to verse teams which are really well coordinated, they have everything down pat, or they just have super players in it, like the Navis, for example, with Simple and Co. He can't keep that same level, which makes sense. But it's like, if you just look at this, it's just the contrast of that versus everybody else. He just fucking gets in there and destroys. And as soon as he steps up to the plate against the big teams, it's just so much harder for him. So it makes sense because it is against the best teams in the world, but it's just one of those weird anomalies that he always can perform against a weaker team.
I guess maybe it's like that confidence play as well. You start pushing out a bit more, you go in for frags, and then coming up against these heavy hitters, like Nip for a while hasn't been able to deal with that, right? It's not a team we've seen be able to hold strong like that.
You're not getting away with multi-kills, versus Astralis. You're probably getting one and done and one in trading. And just quickly before we move too far away from that, we were talking about something. A Machine, I think, had like the best way to describe FaZe as like on their CT side. He was like, they're players who play positions for everybody else in the world that would be one and dones, but they always manage to get two. And I was like, yeah, like that's a pretty good way to describe that. Like they play like risky angles, they like play forward positions where probably they should only get one, but because they're so skilled, they get 2.5 out of it, right? They get the absolute most out of those positions, which is like, it's like crazy to think about it when you put that in context, because you watch FaZe play, they have good communication and they move around the map very well, but their executes are very sloppy. Those kind of details they're not the same level as what we would expect from a top 5 team in the world. But I derailed us from we're talking about NRP. My apologies.
Is this Cloud9 fan from Sponge? Is that the fan that's going on from his laptop all the time?
I thought I fixed that.
Now it started again. I think it was good for some time.
Just triggering the Prof and Striker and the fans.
Yeah. Well, just to touch back on Energy, which is where we kind of started, and then dribbled over to NIP because of Nuke and just their maps. Generally, like from the interview that I had with Daps after they went out, like on the day after, I think it was, even he was kind of like defending his choices and stuff like that, and he was right a lot of the time. Like picking Nuke against NIP, like sure, they even lost 11-4 their T side. They only got 4 on T side, and they still were able to get it to 13-13, and then they fucked up like a 2v5 or something, and that
Forest, yeah.
Exactly, and that's where it basically got away from them. So they even came back into contention, into a winning position, but then fucked up like one big round, and that cost them the game and stuff like this. This was not. I agree with him that this was not down to the maps. They still had they were still in winning positions, and they were still like in those close matches, obviously, because they literally just played every single match close, as we said before. But they just couldn't close it because of some mistakes in big rounds, just not being able to close situations and stuff like that. So it's just like tiny little mistakes basically that just cost them basically every single map. And you have to wonder like where that comes from. If it's just
it is something that they always like kind of struggled with, though. They're famously bad at anti-ecos. They lose like every anti-eco. Like it's maybe even worse for them to win the pistol than lose one, because they just lose to USBs in the next round and stuff like that. I remember like, I don't know who told me about it. He was doing like an interview with Cirque and asking about like what's going on in these rounds, and he was just Cirque just got depressed. Like, I don't know, we just lose everyone. It's like, okay.
It was with mine. That was my interview, I think, actually.
But yeah, he individually, Cirque has also been kind of missing. That's also an issue for them.
It has been so long though as well. Like I felt like he was gonna come back from it, because it was like something like April, May last year, when Cirque was looking like maybe even like a top 20 player. and sorry. And since then, like of course, he still had like fairly good stats, but when you look at the matches, he just seems to have much fewer like those impact rounds that he had like in the first half of the year. So I'm not sure where that comes from. His stats actually seem pretty good at this point, but it's just like looking from the eye test, I feel like he isn't having that much impact as he used to back at like ECS season 4. Was it 5? 5, I think.
It's definitely been the Ethan and Breezy show for like a pretty long period of time, I think. Like Cirque, when he shows up, it looks really good, but it's not consistent, right? It's not a consistent. But I think, it's hard to be a consistent AWP or have a team built around your AWP when you have players like Ethan and Breezy who are, just being used for everything. Like those two just running. Like you watch Ethan on Overpass, he's left to his own devices over towards that B bomb site quite often. Like probably more often than not. He's just like pushing into water and taking duels at sandbag very early in the rounds, and there's nobody even really there. They put a lot of faith in their individuals to get that kind of stuff done, and they're a team who you think of should be pretty like strat heavy because you think of Daps as an in-game leader and Fugly as a support player, like doing a lot of the grunt work, and maybe Breezy and Ethan haven't gotten the star recognition that they probably deserve. But when you think about the roster, you think, oh yeah, pretty strat heavy, they have everything down. But realistically, when you look at a lot of the rounds that they're winning, it's because one of those two names I'm listing are getting 2 to 3 kills, or they're doing something, outlandish. Those two players are, I think they're phenomenal. I think they're really good individuals. But it's hard to expect them to show up all the time. And that's one of the symptoms here. You're talking about that nuke game. Well, that's just a perfect example of where some of the star power was missing. And, Daps had to do more. He had to get more done, and it wasn't enough. So they have to be very disappointed, and it wouldn't surprise me if Fugly went for Tarek, even if they did make the top 8 at this major, or Fugly went for someone. Because I think if they want to continue to climb up the ranks and contest, he was probably the name that would have to go, or probably a protocol upgrade. I think that a personnel upgrade even. I think that I played against Fugly a lot in the past, and he was very good at playing those anchor roles and getting those 2 to 3 kills when you needed him to. But with a lot of talent on the market, it's not surprising that they would be looking for a new player in that area. Especially now they're within the top 10, right? So they're trying to contest for top 5 spot on a more consistent basis, and I think the potential is there. That makes sense.
Now, let's talk about Big a little bit, right? They have a situation where they change a player. Obviously, Smoothie going and Next coming in pretty last minute in terms of all that kind of the situation for them. I definitely put too much stock in them. Yes, last week when we were doing it, right? I definitely was like, yep, they'll have some way. They always manage to make it work. Like, they'll have super strats ready. They looked okay at E-League. There's something to work off of. Fuck me. That was
I still
disappointing.
Thought, like, I have to back you up here. I still didn't think they were going to go 0-3. I still thought they were sure. I saw like some of their issues with like strategies and things like that not being completely on the same page with Xantares and stuff like that. I saw that coming, but I still didn't think they were going to go 0-3. I still thought they were going to have that star power and just win maybe a match or two just based on that, because obviously just Tapson has always delivered. And Xantares actually had like a really good start with the team as well, but obviously that wasn't the case at the major. Xantares had a couple of really, really poor games, and even Tapson didn't really show up as much. I'm not sure if it was just down to him kind of trying to be a little bit different with the op compared to before, because he used to be secondary. Now he was kind of primary, even though they were trying to work around it and just not even have an op a lot of the time. So I feel like just some of these like role switches and things around the op kind of made him not have as much impact as usual. And somehow it was Nex who I thought was just gonna be great because of like his break, because of the wrist issues. That was actually carrying them through matches and trying to push them further. Obviously didn't work in the end, but that's just like all of that together was just so surprising to me.
Yeah.
Just the thing I think with Tabson, because you made the point about the AWPing and him normally being the secondary, there's a very big difference between being a secondary AWPer and a primary AWPer, because to be a ride or die AWPer, you have to go and do it every single round, right? Like you're not getting taken off that role; it's being given to you and picked up for you, and you're being facilitated. So it's such a big change. And I don't think, people realize how much of a change it actually is to do the primary AWPing role. It's not just as simple as just, oh yeah, I'm going to AWP now. It's the way that you have to approach certain duels. As a secondary AWPer, you're more sporadic, right? Because you don't have to do, you're not part of the strat on the T side where you're actually being used to clear and hold angles. You kind of just get to run into a situation and take a fight. Same when you want to use it as a CT. If you want to supplement the side you think an AWP's necessary, you AWP differently to how a primary AWPer would. And that's why, like, when we saw MSL pick it up for North and he, was actually making it work, we've seen Gob B use it before and he's playing in bloody Pop Dog with it on train. It's because these are things that people aren't expecting. But once you become the primary AWPer, your vision on your thoughts on AWPing has to change. So I actually think that the Big here have some like pretty tough choices to make, considering now that Chris J is available, right? With Chris J on the market right now, being an AWPer, and he could do secondary in-game leadership, he could be one of the names who they could potentially be looking at. And I'm pretty sure he would speak German because he's from the Netherlands, very close, similar language. And
he actually speaks German though.
He did,
yeah.
he speaks German fluently on all the old German lineups for mouse sports.
So there's no problem there. So I think that's maybe one of the ones to consider. But yeah, it was pretty flat from them. I'm surprised that they kept going to Mirage after they had their struggles with it. I didn't think that was ever like a super strong map of God B. I remember when he was on NRG with Leggear and Tabson, and they played it back in the North American days, that they had like a couple of cool strats. He actually did those pillar smokes at B as one of his strats to draw the player off Cat. And what they do is that they would have two people come late top mid and push up through those smokes into the site because everyone else is focused on apps. So it's something that he's has a tactical mind for. But maybe that was just the idea to lean towards maps where Zentaras is normally like extremely comfortable.
That is my thinking as well about the whole Mirage thing, because that used to be their like permaban of Big, like not that long ago, just before these last roster changes. So I think it was something to suit Zentaris, and then Zentaris performing very badly. He's like 1.8 rating for the tournament or something like that. That is kind of, if you're playing towards your star player and your star player doesn't perform, you're most likely going to lose. I think there's no like big thinking about that one. So T sides looked pretty shoddy overall, and it's just I think the lack of the opera, as you said. Smuya was comfortable with the T side op, and Tabson not so much. And it is a totally different thing than CT side opping, and even on the CT side, if you're playing double ops all the time, way different to playing like a primary op where you have to play literally all of the positions on the map. Then like if you're double opping, you play like half of the map is for the other guy. So all of that combined just led to them not performing that good. I mean, I am surprised to see them go 0-3, but at the same time, I wasn't expecting them to go to the playoffs just so quickly with this new old lineup. I mean, Zentaris is pretty new, and Next coming back in, no opper, so there's practically Tabson is also like a new player just because he's now opping. All of that coming together, I think.
Mix up.
Yeah, I think that needs more time, definitely. I still think that Tabson can be the primary opper, but I don't think he will be, or that he needs to be, if they can just make some roster change to enable Chris J or whoever they think will fit in.
I like the idea of that as well. Jero in chat said he does big think that Tabson is a better AWPer than Smuya. I don't think it comes down to that. I think they said it quite openly. It was just like the way Big want to play, right? Especially Godby wants to have full control of all the pieces. And there was quite a few back and forth issues. You saw the tweets that come out over and over again. And they want to play their style of Counter-Strike. And I guess Tabson's able to do that. And like you guys were saying there on the CT side as well. So
yeah, Goppy did say
it all turns around.
Yeah, for the CT side, he just liked Tabson's way of opping better because it's like more reliable to lock down positions. And I think that makes sense because Smuya can maybe overextend and die or not do what you should do for the CT side. So they just said, okay, Tabson is better at getting like 1 or 2 kills that we need, and he'll just be the primary CT side opper, and we'll play with him.
All right, anything else you guys want to cover of the Legend stage before we move on a little bit further forward here and go look at our top 3 of the week before we then go into our Champion stage discussion and do our pick'ems?
MIBR maybe touch on, because I feel like they're also a kind of a
we'll talk about them in the playoffs anyway. So.
I mean, that's fair enough. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
What do you want, Sponge?
All right, well, let's go
I
on
was
to our
just
top
gonna-
3 of the
Maybe
week.
Cloud9.
Oh, okay,
I was just going to talk about Cloud9. I just thought it'd be very important to talk about Cloud9.
Yeah, that is true.
Because
You are a fan.
if you watch the games that they played in this next stage, what they actually managed to do was show the worth of all the individuals in that team. Like Zelsus as a rookie winning some clutches and having some impact on pistol rounds, that's probably more than what you could ask from him in this kind of environment. So he's kind of out of this discussion. But the other 4 players, in terms of their roles and positions and impact in the team, all managed to have like crazy moments, especially that like automatic clutch on Dust 2. I thought that was sick.
Yeah.
Where they just really were able to highlight the strengths of all these players. And I still am a little bit skeptical of the roster going forward if Golden doesn't come back, because I think the strategic direction of them is clearly missing, right? And I actually think Golden is a really good in-game leader. I liked what he did with Fnatic when he joined them. But the bigger problem, I think, for the Cloud9 team is when are Kiyoshima, Flusher, and Golden, if he comes back, going to want to go home? Because that's going to happen eventually, right? Like, and it's quite clear that Cloud9 want to be a North American-based team. It makes sense that they're a North American organization. But in this tournament, in the context of this stage, I think that like the big names, Automatic, Flusher, and Kiyoshima especially, because for the longest time he's been out of playing at the top level, right? All showed their worth as individuals, like throughout that whole thing. Flusher, all things considered, he was playing an absolute banger of games, and they're doing stuff without proper strategies. They're taking inspiration on the fly. They were copying like pistol strats of other teams, which everybody does, by the way. But they didn't have their true in-game leader. And I think that if Golden was there, and this is no disrespect to Zelsus, that they had a really good shot of making the top 8. Like if they had Golden, just seeing what those parts did, because I think they proved themselves that they can play really well under any condition. They don't actually need the structure or whatever, which is probably the biggest strength of those kind of guys. So there's positive signs for them if Golden comes back, and that's something that we just kind of have to wait and see, I think.
Let's wait and see indeed. All right, top 3 of the week. So if anyone new joining us, top 3 of the week is where I give these guys a topic to choose from. They don't know what I'm going to ask them, and they have to quickly come up with the spot. They literally just make a very quick 2-minute timer, and they have to give me my reasons. Now, let's get this up. Where'd I put it? Discuss this all with Lucas. Now I can't see where I wrote it. Fail by me.
You don't remember?
Oh, here we go. Top 3 best major runs. Thank you very much, Lucas. In my ears,
Best
I know you guys can't
major
hear
runs.
him. Yeah, so like a team that's had a ridiculous run. We've just had obviously the Renegades one, right? In terms of they've had a big improvement, things we didn't expect. What other major runs come into play for you guys where you would say is like one that really stands out for you across all majors? And who's going to lead us this time? Striker, you can start with your little 2 minutes.
I guess I have to start because the other 2 guys started before.
There you go.
Okay. Let me just give me like 10 seconds to kind of gather my thoughts.
This is always so rough on you guys as well.
Yeah.
But Lucas,
just
get that
because
timer ready.
This is also a rough one just because you have to go back fucking 6 years for the last,
Yeah.
5.5 for the first one. Actually, I'm going to start with the first one just because of Fnatic and the storyline going into that event where they only just got in Pronax for Madi at that time. And they just somehow won the event after beating NIP in the grand final. Massive surprise. It actually might be my first one. I don't know. That's the thing. Like I'm not totally convinced about any of the others. So this might actually end up going up in the list, right?
Okay.
But I'm just gonna do it like this. Fnatic at DHW 13 for the third one so far. Let me look at the other ones just quickly, because it's kind of hard. Okay, number 2, at least like a pretty sick round was NIP at Cologne. Cologne 2014, obviously a winning run as well. I'm probably only going to go with winning rounds just because it's hard to remember some of the old ones that didn't really end up winning the tournament. But NIP at Cologne 2014, again, the storyline with like Cobble and Overpass coming in, and obviously NIP just winning Cobble as this like 3 deciders in a row, or like in all 3 series in the playoffs, and that basically being the map that won them the major. As a map that not that many teams knew how to play because it was just new. literally just like a couple months before. So I'm gonna go with NIP at Cologne 14 for the second one. I might have to jumble them up later, just to figure out the actual order. What about the third one? Let me see. Oh fuck no! Yeah, Cloud9 at E-League Major. Fuck it, they're gonna be first anyway. Cloud9 at E-League Major. Again, nobody really saw that coming. I think nobody saw them.
No.
Before that event, I don't think anybody saw them as a team past quarterfinals. They were a team that was probably going to make the finals. I think the playoffs. I think everybody saw that, but nobody really saw them winning the whole thing, especially in the fashion that they did, winning the Inferno game from like not a massive comeback, but a pretty big comeback to take it into overtime. So I'm gonna go with that.
Cool. But you're done and you're out of time. You even had a little bit extra, so we were really nice to you there, Striker. Prof, over to you. What's your top three?
I'm
Lucas,
gonna go.
Get that timer ready.
I'm gonna go a bit different. I have 0 winning runs. I'm just gonna go for these kind of hipster picks. I'm not sure what to put for first. I think I'll go for number 3. I'll go for LGB at the first major because they were kind of fully out of the picture as well. Mm-hmm. With that lineup that then became the ultimate legend, all of Meister Crims and those guys making it to the top 4 and being not the first major actually. I think the second one, the Katowice one, is more impressive. So just put it the Katowice one because they actually were the only team to take a map off of Virtus Pro, which were unbeatable. Like as we said, no one took a map off them. Pretty impressive run. Number 2. I'm not sure about this one, but let's just go for the international G2 at Cluj that also made a top 4 with Michael Elef and those guys, Fox, J. Kim, Rain, and who was the last guy actually? I can't remember.
What did you say? Wasn't it Fox, J. Kim, Rain? What did you say?
Fox, Michael Elef. Dennis was there as well, and that was a sick. They all actually almost made the finals. That was like a sick match against Envy there. And Envy.
What year was that? 2015.
That was Cluj-Napoca 2015. Yeah. They took a map off Envy, and then Envy won the whole tournament. So that's the number 2. And for number 1, just a mega hipster pick because I was a fan of the team when they came together and actually did that major one was the Cologne 2014 Team LDLC. In-game led by Happy, Apex as the insane entry fragger, then Uzi, Maniac as the ultimate support, and the 5th guy was Kaylee. Was it Kaylee the 5th guy? Yes.
Was it?
Yes. Maybe he was cheating. Maybe that kind of fucks it all up. But it is what it is.
You were doing so well. Ultimate
hipster picks, top 4s, but totally unexpected.
That's actually pretty good. I like that.
Yeah. For once, Prof, I even agree with you to some degree. Sponge, what you got for us, my man?
All right, I'm going to go with the Cloud9 over FaZe at the Boston Major of 2018 because I think that FaZe obviously had a say in that by choking in the grand final. So that sucks a little bit for them. But nobody thought that Cloud9 were going to win that event, and they were the first North American team ever to do it. My number 2 is actually going to be Immortals making it to the grand final of the PGL Major. And that's just because I really like the way that they did it. It was a completely momentum-based run. Like, that team just completely thrived off the momentum. But for another squad, that grand final was one that nobody would have ever predicted in a million years. I think that for them to make it all the way through there, obviously they faltered. But it's just good to see a Brazilian team that wasn't SK making it that far, and in the style that they did it, it was some very flashy Counter-Strike. And my number 1 has to be Fnatic beating NIP in DreamHack Winter 2013. That's because it was either NIP or Very Games at the time, right? There were the 2 names, and it was NIP were the clear favorites. And for Fnatic to be able to come out and do that in an auditorium full of fans chanting NIP, and there was only about 7 people in the entire auditorium who were cheering for NIP, cheering for Fnatic, and they were able to pull out that victory just against all odds in that regard. I think that has to be the biggest one because it was the first major ever. They took down NIP, the gods of the game at the time, and I think no one would have thought that was going to happen ever.
No.
Done.
Wow, Sponge rattled through that. By the way, that music is on point.
Are we sure we're
Who
not going
wants
to get
be a
this? Is not like
millionaire?
under copyright.
Yeah. Lucas,
Well,
if you
it's
just
Lucas's
fucked
job
up,
on
mate,
the line, not
you're
ours.
fired. Yeah, we didn't do anything wrong. That's the main thing. Lucas is gone as of next week. If we get whatever
If
DMCA,
you have
all
any
that shit that
experience
goes on.
producing like Twitch shows, just
Yeah.
send
Get
us
in touch.
jobs at hltv.org.
We're looking for a replacement. Okay. Oh, this one could be the toughest. We've got a poll going down the corner as well, which is Lucas is setting up. Thing is, Bunge's reasons I can get behind. The Immortals one, just that PGL major in general, I wasn't a fan of. Professor gives me a bit of legacy, a bit of the old school in
Look,
there.
I definitely am not gonna win this because I went mega hipster, but this
Yeah,
is
we
just
won
like
too.
Yeah, but
my...
they're like key moments though, right? When you
That's
look
why
back
I
at
like
history
them
and you
so
go,
much, because like I
oh
remember
yeah,
them.
that's what's getting me. I'm sat here like, oh,
I
this is
kinda like them
like
too.
memories of good moments. But then Strikers, like the Cloud9 one, right, is 1000% that, because that was just fucking insane. What was it? They were nearly 0-3, just about bouncing back and fought mad, just crazy. Striker, this time around, I'm going to give the win to you. Prof, as
Nice.
much as you're a cunt, I'm still going to say that they were some very good choices and you put me on a bit of a nostalgia trip. You even make me want to go and play some CSGO rather than just watch it.
Thank you, I guess.
So yes, Striker, you could take a win. Thank you, I guess. Use you in some way, Prof. Come on, it's just the way it goes.
Congrats,
My
Striker.
internet is terrible,
you,
by the way,
you win
Twitch
something.
chat.
Well,
You've
look,
done something.
Let's see next week, all right?
I mean, if I lose next week, I'm not
Chat
coming on the
voted for
show.
Okay, chat voted for Sponge. In second place, we had Striker. In third place, we had Prof. Probably because most people in Twitch chat maybe weren't around.
People
when
don't
some of
even
the
know
things
what
were
the
going
fuck
on.
I'm talking about.
Yeah. They're like, what?
I know. I
That was a
saw
good
one
actually.
message.
I enjoyed that.
One message was that team existed? Question mark. I think it was like the G2 lineup or
All right, yeah, that was a good one. I really enjoyed that for our top three. We'll have to wait and see what happens next week. Lucas, make a note of this, mate. Start tallying up who's winning so we can get an overall leaderboard because we're pretty close at this point. All right, let's move on to our champion stage discussion. To upset or not to upset? That is the question. And that's because we already know the matchups, which is great. We know how this is going to go down. We've got Na'Vi versus FaZe, Liquid versus ENCE, MIBR versus Renegades, Astralis versus NiP. And what I'm going to start with is going over to you, Chad, is Renegades. Can they do it? And I'm not asking for you to say no just so they do it. I'm asking you to see what world of possibility could we see this happening?
I think they've shown a deeper map pool, obviously, than what MIBR have had to do because they've had to play a lot more games to get to this current point. But MIBR know what it takes to win at this level,
Yeah.
right? So I don't think that Renegades have any opportunity to do a crazy punish in the veto. That's because we haven't seen a lot of MIBR to see where weaknesses lie. Inferno is a map that they seem to think that they're good at for some reason, even though it's on the contrary, right? Even the same symptoms as what they had before. They have to have Cold Zero dropping like 30 plus kills for them to be able to win the map. So it is possible for Renegades to win, and I think that series probably should be a 3-mapper. But it wouldn't surprise me if MIBR just come out and mop the floor with them. Just that kind of stage, that crowd that they're going to be in front of, that's going to be something else, right? I know that Azur, JKS, and Jacob played in front of the Australian crowd, and for Azur and JKS, that would have been hugely important in an emotional time. But in terms of nerves and going up against a class act like MIBR, it's a much different game, and that's all from like a mentality perspective. If you looked purely at in-game and what we've seen so far, then I think that, yeah, Renegades could definitely beat the likes of MIBR. Like, that doesn't seem outside the realms of possibility at all. But for some reason in my mind, they still go into this matchup as, the underdog, which is probably a good tag for them to be having right now. I'm kind of just waiting. This is it's like a never-ending party, right? Like, you got the Friday lunchtime and it hasn't ended until Sunday. Well, it still feels like the party's going right now for Renegades, and I'm just waiting for the police to come and shut it down, if you know what I mean. Like, it seems too good to be true that they're competing at this level. So I think that they can win. Do I think they're going to win? Probably not.
Yeah, that's kind of my feeling as well. I mean, as I said before, I've been betting against them the whole time, and I'm still waiting for them to actually lose. I've been losing the whole time, so good
Yeah.
stuff on that. But the added, it's not like the added pressure. It's kind of hard to quantify these things, but every team has had these moments, matches, I guess, except Australis, maybe, even though they kind of choked that lead as well, where they just like crumbled in some way. Like some teams earlier in the tournament, some teams in the last matches of the tournament. But we saw like Avantgarde, I think, is also an example of that. That looking at the last match they played against ENCE, that was not how they usually play. And there has to be a level where Renegades go through the same thing. Like there will be a point where they like go on the server and they don't perform as they did earlier in the tournament. And I think if it wasn't like in the group stage, then I guess like the first match of the playoffs is it.
All
I
right.
have to agree with all of that, honestly, because
Yeah.
I mean, Renegades obviously were the biggest surprise of the whole thing, of the whole group stage or New Legends stage, and
Both stages, to be honest.
huh? Well,
Both
yeah, of
stages
course,
so
the
far, to be honest.
first stage as well. But I mean, even after that first stage, I don't think anybody thought they were going to make it to the playoffs. And afterwards, like I still was kind of waiting for them to show a little bit more before I actually believed in them. The Renegades in my BR quarterfinal, I feel like has the biggest upset potential, just because of FaZe looking a little bit dejected towards the end, and that, you know, obviously against Navi, who actually looked fairly confident. Aside from like, well, they only lost to Liquid, who were always going to win that series, so that wasn't a big surprise. So I feel like that quarterfinal could actually be the most exciting one, just because of the upset potential that is there. MIBR just not being totally well-rounded, as Sponge was saying. Map pool wise, we're also not sure. So that Renegades could just easily be like a favorite in that match, even though MIBR would obviously be the bigger name.
I mean,
we just don't know.
looking at the numbers, looking at the results, Renegades are the favorites. But you just go for like the brand value, go for the pedigree, you go for the names, and then you go, okay, MIBR is going to do it. But looking at the map pool, we don't even have enough maps played from MIBR to see anything. They have like whatever they played 4 or 5 maps. That's all.
4.
So, and 3 of them were like in Inferno. So great. Like looking at the numbers of the individual players, Coldzera has like a 1.30 rating for the group stage, the Swiss group stage, and 3 of their players are like below 1, including Fallen. So that's not a good sign either. But you just disregard all of that and you say, okay, legends are legends, and rookies still need to like get stuff done.
It's the added pressure, right, of who they're going up against. That match, though, is probably going to be just an absolutely exciting. Well, it's got the potential, right, to be absolutely exciting or a complete one-sided affair, depending on who shows up. The other one, right, and this one, the clear favourites are Liquid going up against ENCE, and for all the reasons of ENCE, obviously looked pretty lackluster on the Legends stage, but you could see how much they wanted it, how much of it was down to obviously Alu having to disappear in between because he was having a baby, rightly so, right? Who wouldn't do what he did there? Just a little bit less practice time and stuff like that.
Yep.
But I just don't see anything ENCE can do in that. I just think that's just going to be Liquid rocking it because they look fucking on point.
I think the only way that ENCE could win that series is if somehow they get to play Train, which isn't going to happen. I think like Train for them is a very strong map, and they look very clean on their executes, and everybody looks super aware. But I don't think Liquid are going to allow that to crop up in the best of 3, unfortunately, for ENCE fans. But the bigger issue that I take with ENCE is that Sergey underperformed in those on that last series, right? For them to get across, it was maybe even the last 2 games. It feels like it was just Alexi B. Obviously, I need to check the stats just to make sure that I'm not talking out my ass here. But a lot of the big plays were actually being done by the in-game leader, which is good and bad for a multitude of reasons. But he can't be the second best player in the team, or he shouldn't be the first best player in the team, right? Like you want Sergey to be your best player, you want Alu to be up in top of part of that, and then you just want the other 3 to contribute where they have to. But Alexi had to do a lot of grunt work to get them to where they are right now, which worries me a little bit. There's positive signs for him as an individual and him being able to call into that all at the same time. but it's the contrast of that with some of the players not performing as the way that they should, going up against the Liquid, who also didn't do anything more than they had to. I think that's probably the best way to look at Liquid's run so far is they just kind of won the matches they had to, and they didn't do it in flashiest of styles, right? Like they were kept close, and they just with a 3-0. You can't argue with a 3-0, but they were kept close on the majority of their matches. So that's a really hard one to ping, but it's another one where you just lean towards Liquid just purely based on the names in the survey.
As a caveat to that, is ENCE have actually never played Liquid before, so this is going to be a premiere between these two.
That'll be
so
nice.
That's another kind of I guess it could be a factor for Liquid, but at the same time, like ENCE's playstyle is not something that is going to surprise Liquid. It's actually going to be quite the opposite. Like Liquid have been used to playing against like well-rounded teams, just like who don't really do anything crazy at any point. You know, they've fucking played Astralis God knows how many times during the last year. So like this kind of style is not going to surprise Liquid whatsoever, which is kind of like why I feel like this is just going to play into their hands even more. And why they're even more favorite to me. I just feel like ENCE would have to really, really overperform to be Liquid. And that's just like based on what we've seen, that's not gonna happen.
And that's one of the things I think at the moment, at least for Liquid, right? They're used to this, like you were saying there, and when you're coming up against an ENCE, all their games end up being so close, they struggle to close a lot of the time. I think you mentioned that last time around, Chad, like just how close so many of their games. It's like they'll have a massive lead and you'll be like, oh, cool, look, ENCE looking really comfortable. They're playing as we expect. But then it just drops off and it gets real close. And then when there's literally fire under their ass, they're like, oh, yeah, I should probably go and win this game now.
It's like that 14-1 train half they had against Windstrike, I think it was. So it was like that was a what the fuck moment. I look at this team and there's so much potential here because they've built it from the ground up. It's another one of these projects that they've had to work and graft very hard to bring these players up to this standard. But from when I talk to Natu and he says like, look, Ariel there's so much talent there that's yet to come out, and Sergey, obviously we've been talking about him as one of these young gun prodigies. It doesn't feel like all the pieces of this puzzle come online at the same time just yet. And I know with the progression of this squad that from a personal standpoint, I'm happy to give them time to get to where they need to be and to flourish and fully operate. But you wonder. I was going to say you wonder how long until they start looking at it from a different way, because with the whole mouse sports situation, I know that Sunny probably isn't available right now for contract, but it's a pretty juicy thought if you're top 8 at a major, so next time you guarantee that spot. If you're Sunny and ENCE come to you and say, hey, we're going to kick X7 and you want to take his place, you'd be making that jump across pretty quick, I think.
Yeah, I mean they have been evolving like on a decent. Mr. Lags is.
I'm lagging like fuck. So screw my fucking hotel. You guys just keep going.
The first time, though.
Oh, there we go. Just like rant, it comes out.
I just want to say,
do you think, Chad? Sorry, that it would be literally Sunny come in to replace X7 if that was an option.
Like at the moment, at the way it looks in Finland. That's what I would do if that was a possibility. Like, and that's no disrespect to X7. It's just an upgrade, right, of firepower and experience. And I talk about them needing a closer, and I think Sunny can be that player, right? So I don't think they need to make a roster change right now, but if they were thinking about it, that would be the one that would make the most sense, at least in my perspective.
Yeah, I really want to see what we get out of this. Like, I think their rise over just the past year has been crazy, and I don't want to disrupt it yet, but it's an interesting caveat. Prof, continue. Sorry, mate.
Yeah, I just want to say that their progression so far has been really like the best you can actually expect from a team. I think, like, looking at, they made the team, okay, maybe like the first month or two, they were playing on online stuff similarly to Vitality, but they didn't like have a breakthrough until that DG Bet qualifier for Cologne. That was also run by UCC, and that was a LAN. If you want to know how UCC runs LAN, that wasn't the best one in the world, definitely, but they managed to beat like Spirit, I think, their qualifier for Cologne, and then their run started. So that's like, what is it? I'm not good with numbers, but like 8-9 months since they actually came from kind of nowhere to being top 8 at the major. So that is a good thing, and I think this top 8 gives them at least 3 to 6 months where they're still confident, like until the next major, until after the next major, that they're surely not going to be changing anything, unless literally Sunny says, okay, Mouseport just released me from my contract, and that's not going to happen. So I think that they'll be sticking to this for a quite while, and I think that's reasonable.
All right, and then on the other thing, Astralis versus Nip. I know Nip have the Nip magic thing that we go on about, but this is Astralis. I can't see anything. I think that's just another kind of done one, almost like the liquor one we were just talking about.
On paper, 100%.
Yeah, I'm just going to reiterate something that you actually said on the stream chat that I really agree with, was about just the kind of like this being a little bit of a sneaker, that an IP and Astralis have historically had some really close games, and surprisingly close games. So this could potentially like turn into a really good series. Obviously, we don't expect it to anyway. We just think Astralis are going to breeze past the Swedes, but it genuinely could, just because of the history between the two. That IP just being kind of a pain in the ass for Astralis a couple of the times at Blast Pro Series. What was it, Copenhagen?
Took a map at ECS Season 6 Finals on train as well.
Yeah. So just like some of these close matches actually make me hopeful about an IP, and just generally about making the series exciting. I don't think there's a way an IP actually beat Astralis, but it just could get a little bit more interesting with a map here and there.
Yeah, it almost feels like a non-fixture, right? Which is sad, but you could build a really good argument as to why it is possible that it could be a good series. I don't think in any world they win, but I definitely think there's a world where they make it very interesting, and I could do that for all 4 of these matchups. Like the FaZe versus Na'Vi one, I'm not trying to take us too far away. I've already covered the 2, but like right now, the way that FaZe have been playing, I'm not, they haven't actually shown us anything other than, an individual stepping up, getting a 3K and then winning a round. But Na'Vi, on the other side of things, they, rely on their star power a lot too. So when you have those two going head to head, that's where that becomes an exciting matchup as well. So all 4 of these quarterfinals have really good potential, even though on paper they look like clear one-way games, or at least most of them do.
Well, let's go through our magic little bit of pick'ems. We've not done so badly, I think. If we look at
you haven't fucked up my pick'ems, basically.
Fucking ridiculous. Hey, we haven't fucked Striker's pick'ems, which is always positive for him, so we can see how he's doing. And I would say, let's have a look at this now and run through exactly what it's going to be. Lucas, get it up and ready for us, and we will start to make our decisions. And it should be at least fairly fucking straightforward, right?
At least for the first round, I think we have our pick'ems. Yeah, this is where we finished for what we had for the last one.
Yeah, we actually got the 5 just because of
we saved you. We saved you.
FaZe actually saved this round of pick'ems, because obviously up until that last match we were at 4. But Astralis going 3-0. Astralis good going 3-0. It didn't matter what we were gonna pick out of those two. Just ended up as expected. But obviously Energy and Big being Big was of course it was Banks' pick.
Don't fucking start.
I mean, to be fair, I picked Hellraisers who had 1-3 and looked just equally bad. So it's.
I mean, I would say that Hellraisers even looked worse than Big.
I feel,
honestly.
yeah, it could be.
Hellraisers looked terrible. That's the worst I've ever seen Hellraisers
I was
play.
depressed watching
Complexity
that.
literally turned up, yeah. Wow.
Yeah, it's like 3 of their players didn't even turn up. Like how does that happen?
And shit's going on.
Bex is just like finishing a sentence like.
Literally, I'm gonna put my fucking hand through this in a second. Jesus Christ, this is so tilting. I'm like, hi, half of what you guys say.
Here we go.
Anyway, yes, I got a picture. That's fair. There we go. It's so tilting with bad internet. It's unbelievable.
This is what you get from doing stuff from the road. What can you do?
I know. We're on the road. I'm sorry, guys. I'm sorry. Just got Bunks out the show. Fuck you guys. I don't want to go anywhere. It's just the internet. When I'm home, it's fine. No, in all seriousness, right? When we're looking at that complexity thing, I literally just felt like because everyone pretty much put them as their 0-3, that is the only reason they didn't go 0-3. It was that we must win one. We must win something. And last minute fucking hurrah, and they got it done.
I thought it pretty funny that Jason Lake was just like super massively happy about them actually winning one
One
series.
game, yeah.
I
Like they were,
mean,
I was like,
about
we're
to
not
win it
0-3.
the thing is, for them it means a lot. For them it means
Yeah.
more to be 1-3 than for NRG, because NRG
Yeah.
can qualify again. They're like a solid team, but for Complexity, who knows what happens in like the major, like the minor qualifiers, whatever.
Yeah,
It's a rough road.
And Dubs was even saying that he's not even worried about like having to go back to the minor system. He's more worried about how they fucked up here. And that's okay. That's actually one thing I'm gonna say. And obviously, I'm backtracking to the discussion we had about the new Legend stage. But just in general, I feel like the system of the major, where you obviously make it to the playoffs and you make it to the next major already, and that or like make it to the whatever new Legend stage, you have to win one, and you're at least not in the minor. You at least get it to the whatever first stage. I feel like that has kind of fucked with the storylines that we have at the major. People just like prioritizing making it to the next major rather than like focusing on the actual major run. And that's just something that I don't really like. That it's just way too much focus on what happens at the next major, based on results that have happened here. Let's not focus on that. Let's focus on how the teams are doing at this major and what it means in this major run. Like, why do we care about what happens in 6 months from now?
That's a very good point. I think
I feel
that,
like that's not. I don't like that perspective really.
yeah, I think for a lot of, so this is probably a perspective for teams or organizations where it's like just about like staying relevant, right? Like
Yeah.
for Complexity, as they're probably the perfect case in this situation. If they didn't make it, as you mentioned, they probably would have really struggled to make it back to the same point. So for them, it's more sticker money, it's more signature money for the players. It keeps the brand, that logo is going to be there next time round.
It allows
It's
them
just,
to get in players as well. Like you
yeah,
have a major spot, maybe you can get in someone from, I don't know, some team, a Ghost or whatever.
sure. And I think that's all big stuff. But you're right, the focus shouldn't be on just getting to this point and be like, yeah, okay, we've done our job now. It doesn't really matter if we win or lose. Like you want everybody to be fighting for it. I just think right now the bar between the top two teams in the world. I'll throw Navi in there. They're still performing on a decent level this time around. So the top three teams in the world and everybody else is pretty big. I think you've got Australis all the way up there. You've got Liquid below them, and then Navi, FaZe, etc. There's a chunk of teams, and then there's like a real steep drop off. At least in my opinion, of challenges for getting upsets done or beating a big team. So yeah, it's a bit of a shame that people think about it that way.
Yeah, just like
I mean, it's been happening for like the last 2-3 years.
It's forever.
Just like,
it's just like I get tired of it all the time. That it's just like a lot of these, not even just teams, but just generally the community focuses on this a lot, and just a lot of the storylines are built on it, which I'm not. I just don't like that too much. Like, sure, obviously it means a lot to some of these teams to go out or not go out and stuff like that, and actually have a place at the next major. But like in terms of the tournament itself, it doesn't mean anything.
Do you guys think though that the format so far has weeded out the gimmicky teams like Complexity, Hellraisers, and Big is the one that's on the fence from last time round? Were all like gimmick in terms of they just had to win the best of ones to get to where they were, right? Like Big, obviously, back if you think about the PGO Krakow one was the Inferno glitch situation, but like it feels like this system will weed these teams out eventually, and then we'll have teams who are competent of playing the best of three series. I still think the last 2 days of best of threes in this series, like the Legends one, was still really weak. Like teams shouldn't be like winning each other's map picks like 16 to 6 and stuff like that. That doesn't, like, if it's your map pick and another team is good on that map too, then it should be a close map. It shouldn't be a blowout. And that just shows me that coming into this event, a lot of teams weren't where they should be. And the bar, like I keep talking about this bar, but it is set super high. Like Australis have changed the way we watch Counter-Strike, and you kind of want to hold everybody to that same light. It's difficult to do that, but you need to strive for that greatness, right? For at least a level that somewhat represents that. And that's why when Renegades and ENCE make it through on having solid map pools and playing really good Counter-Strike, that's why it's like I feel like they are deserved of this current, and I hate that term as well, deserved. Because that's such a weird one to hear thrown around. But let me try that again. I feel like they have earned their place in the top 8 by doing a lot of hard work and proving that they have a deep enough map pool. They haven't just gone into a series against another team with a shit map pool, and it hasn't just been like blowouts or anything. And they've gotten through in that way. They've actually had to earn their way to this place. And I think that this system, if other other tournament organizers use it in the future, it'll continue to weed these teams out. It's just the minor run right now is where it's really, the minor run is actually harder than probably the challenger stage for some of these teams. Like, I mean, from best of having to beat certain squads to get through. Like, I think that.
Just look at an IP, right? Like, I don't think we doubted that an IP would be able to get through like some of these new challenger stages when they weren't actually at the major, when they didn't make it there. But obviously they failed already in the online stage before the last cycle, basically before the Face It major. They failed like 3 times in a row, I think it is. So like that was like the best example of a team where just like obviously for them like these online runs were really really hard, while like them in a new challenger stage or like previously the qualifier, that wouldn't have been so bad.
It's just about the numbers. Like you have an open qualifier played by like 500 teams in Europe. Okay, like 400 of them are trash, like, but you have 100 teams that are kind of decent, and you play like 4 or 5 best of ones against those teams to get to the close qualifier, and then maybe you can lose one, and then you're out. It's single elimination. So you have that, and then you have the closed online closed qualifiers. Then you have to go through that, which is okay. You have like 16 teams, 8 go through, but then from 8, only 2 go further. So it's always like it's such a competitive field. Doesn't matter how maybe the teams are kind of worse than the challenger stage teams are. Maybe they're like EU minor and challenger stage, maybe it's not that big of a difference, but in the same way, it's hard to get like that top percentage to advance further is much lower than in the challenger stage, where it's 50% of the teams advanced to the new legends or whatever it's called.
Sure. And it's obviously like the biggest part of that is just online CS, right? And we all know that it's different. Like it's hard to put a finger on it, but it's just we all know how that goes.
Yes. I forgot what we were talking about at the beginning, but I had something to say, but it was so long ago.
This was kind of an off-topic going into like the storylines about the.
But yeah, the thing about
the format works
about Legend stage, it's been happening for 2 years, and every time you ask someone like what do you want to do? What's your expectation goal? It's like, let's make Legends. That's the main priority. It's like, okay, I just want to be at the next major. Like, do something at this major. Make a run. Make something here. I agree with that, Milan. Very nice point.
Thank you. Let's go to do the pick'ems.
Right. Yeah, let's do the pick'ems now. Let's fucking go. So, to start with, Astralis, yes, winning that.
Look,
Anyone going to disagree, really?
I can easily just do. Let's go. I could easily do that. Just these two. I think we could easily agree on those.
I thought you were going to
massively.
The end.
Huh?
I thought you were going to fill it out till the end.
Oh, you mean like that?
Yeah, we're gonna go all the way.
I mean, okay, let's wait until we get to that. But I think Astralis liquid, like in the quarterfinals, we've already talked about it. Like there's very, very little percentage of those teams not making it through.
Yeah, I mean, for them, IB Renegades, I don't think we even have to. We talked about these 2 matches a lot, but
I feel like it's the one where I feel like a lot of people could differ, just because of Renegades' run and them kind of being having proven themselves. And MIBR not really, because of how little we know about them. So that's the one I feel like is going to be like the most diverse.
Yeah, but I think our logic was just like veterancy to go through, and I think MIBR is the pick here. I think we can agree on that one.
For sure.
And then for the last one, I think it's also pretty obvious that we're leaning towards Navi, because just FaZe have been looking weak. Overall, just weak.
They're going to step it up when they get to the arena. Like, their individual performance will be elevated by being in the arena. That's what we're also expecting. The same with MIBR, but the same Navi also settle into that same point. And they actually looked very hungry to me in all the games that they played. I think their game plan against Liquid on Mirage in the beginning was very poor. I think what they thought was going to happen was Liquid were going to be like, hey, we're 5 sick aimers and we're just going to go and take duels against Navi. But Liquid didn't do that. They actually respected the fuck out of them, and they gave them a lot of room to work. And it felt like it took the first, 6 rounds of that game, maybe first 7 rounds of that game, for Zeus to realize that they needed to group up and start executing onto bomb sites. And once they'd done that, that had changed. So, and I think that their approach and some of the things they've definitely been practicing, right? Like, Zeus is now holding the B bomb site on Inferno. That's quite a big change. He used to be doing the crossfire, pit anchor, castle, site, quad, all that kind of stuff with electronic over towards A, right? So they've definitely changed some stuff. And Flamey, if he can continue to play at the level that he was playing at, and Simple is himself and Electronic is himself, holy shit. Like, Flamey was on fire in some of those games. He was just destroying. So I think Na'Vi have shown a better face so far than FaZe. And if they both get elevated by the arena, then Na'Vi are elevated to a higher position than FaZe in my mind. But I actually think that if you get the Liquid Na'Vi rematch, it's going to be... That was a good series. Like, I think it was a good series, even though one of the maps was like 16-9 or something. Yeah. But I still think it could be a good series. And I think Astralis versus MIBR could be a good series too, because MIBR's ban is going to be nuke, right? They're not fucking around with any of that nonsense. So MIBR also, when they had Stewie and Tarek late last year at the ECS finals, right, pushed Astralis. They weren't too far away from actually beating Astralis. And that would definitely fill them with some confidence. So these two heroes, in terms of semi-finals, I think are the best two semi-finals. And then I think we're all pretty clear on who we think is going to win these two matches, right? Like, I don't think so
I feel like like, literally most people, like, you can disagree on MIBR, Renegades, and Na'Vi and FaZe, but I think we can all agree that Astralis and Liquid are going to beat any of those 4 teams, or any of those 2, respectively.
I mean, I think there is a chance for Na'Vi to beat Liquid, even though they lost the last 4 times, or 3 or 4 times.
Historically, it's not going to happen,
Really?
but like...
But there is that logic which I like to use, is like, sometime, like, the win has to come. You can't win
Eventually.
every time. That's what people have been trying to do against Astralis.
Astralis
Hasn't been working. But it can happen. It will happen. It's like, it's not that big.
You know how long Astralis kept their streak against Liquid, though.
Yeah, that is true. I was talking about the nuke,
sure.
whatever.
Well, that's even worse.
Yeah, it still didn't get broken. But at the same time, I mean, we're trying to go with the odds here, and obviously the odds are on Liquid's side to win. So why would you go on Na'Vi? There's not much we can say that can, like, I can't find an angle that makes it make the odds more reasonable and to go for Na'Vi. So there's also the part with Electronic having like a I don't know, a son or a daughter probably getting bored any day now. So that's something that's him getting like, I don't know, probably not going to be as focused as he is normally. And that's the reason why they didn't have the boot camp and stuff like that.
Imagine if his wife calls him like right before the series.
Yeah, that's stuff that can happen.
That would be so...
That's the thing, like...
so bad.
That's a pretty bad one.
Yeah.
That'd be rough.
In terms of
just leave now.
Just say.
It
Could happen, you know, and like...
On the other
the
side...
kind of stuff that you can't really just predict.
On the other side, we have half of Astralis being sick, so that's also something...
That's true,
like,
actually.
Do we take that into account, and how much do we take that into account?
I was worried that they were all just going to be sick for the entire week, and just like obviously like lack of practice, and for a week to be a week like outside of CS, you know, that's not even in this like in this environment. I feel like that could hurt Astralis quite a bit. But like, I saw that they all came to media outside of Glaive and Zipex. So it feels like Glaive and Zipex are I mean, at least yesterday was the case. That only Glaive and Zipex didn't come, so the rest of the team seems okay now. So that tells me that the team should be fine by the time the playoffs actually come. And they obviously have a matchup at first that should not be among the hardest. So
and
hopefully they'll just like ease into the playoffs and actually play up to their level.
And then we get to the last one.
And this is the real fun one. And once again, once again, if we go by history repeating itself time and time again, it's just going to be Astralis. It feels like we're having Groundhog Day every single event of our lives at this point. Like, no one else has stepped up to the plate in a big enough way for us to be able to put stock in them, right? Liquid, we have enough faith in them to get to the final. Sure, they beat them at the iBuyPower event, but we kind of take that event with a grain of salt, right? So if you think, where can they get it done? Okay, well, they can probably get it done on Mirage. If they get it done on Mirage, then where are you taking it if you're Astralis? Like, what map are you picking in this best of 3 series? Well, if you play an Inferno, you're putting yourself at a chance of getting 2-0'd, but you're also one of the strongest teams on Inferno in terms of like utility usage. Your rotations are always on point. Your T-side strategies, you're constantly innovating and changing things up and tweaking them so they can't stay on top of you. Overpass has dropped off a little bit for them. They will not. I don't think they'd pick into Nuke.
I mean, Liquid will just ban Nuke, aren't they?
Well, I thought they'd ban Train for some reason.
I think they banned
actually,
Train
yeah, it could
again at the
Could
IBA
be.
Power tournament. I'll just check because they didn't play. Let's say.
I actually don't remember that.
For some reason, I don't think they're playing Train. Or at least that's what I've been led to believe. I don't know. My day's a bit blurry. I'm still a little under anesthesia a little bit, but I'm pretty sure Train's the map that they're not playing at the moment.
Actually,
that's been
at
their
IBA
ban.
Powers, Liquid did ban a Nuke, and then Astralis didn't pick into Train.
Oh, they didn't
They
pick
actually
Train.
they actually banned Train in the second rotation, so that's why you got Inferno, Dust Overpass as the maps
Right.
there, which is that those three and Mirage are like the most likely ones to come up.
So this Liquid roster has only played, like with Stewie on it, they've only played Dust 2 3 times, Mirage 3 times, Overpass 3 times, Inferno twice, and Cache once.
Right.
So
they didn't play Nuke or did you say Nuke or not?
No, they haven't played
No,
Nuke.
no Nuke.
Nuke or Train.
Or Train.
Yeah, so it's you'd assume it'd be one of those two that they'd remove from an official capacity, right?
Yeah,
And if you're Astralis, you're banning
Astralis
Cache.
would just pick Nuke. Would just pick Train.
Yeah.
if it
Yeah,
is
I'm
open,
sure
though.
that they put work on Train in the meantime, so the thing that happened last time doesn't happen again.
I feel like Astralis will probably just pick either Nuke or Train, depending on what Liquid bans. Either way, they're going to be heavily favored on that map.
Yeah, the only concern there is going into the unknown, right? You can't look at any of the attendances of Liquid.
Yeah, that's true.
But they can look at like all of your stuff, and it's probably going to be similar. Like,
But the thing is, like, Liquid haven't actually played it, so they haven't really gotten like any official experience on it.
That's true.
So like everything together just like points to
in a grand
Astralis.
final though, and you are Liquid. If you're in a grand final and you're Liquid, and you've reached that point, especially if you're the core four of that roster who have gone up time and time again and lost, I'm sure that you're more than happy to take another risk when you're such a stark underdog in that regard, right? I guess it's going to have to wait and see what the maps unfold for in the quarter and the semi if they make it that far, because we need to see like if they want to play something a little bit more diverse. Their overpass, like, I'm not sold on their overpass. They were pushed by like Avant-Garde, right? Like, and they only able to like save themselves because they had some rounds they probably shouldn't have won. But individually speaking, when you watch them play, they're so scary. Like, they're such a scary looking team because all 5 players are just like aimers, and they're all really smart and aware of like current meta Counter-Strike. So I'm like you, Prof. I think like eventually they have to win. Like, eventually, but just when is that eventually going to be? Like, under the major circumstances, if you take Astralis being sick out of the equation, let's say they're at 100% and Liquid are at 100%. I'm still going with Astralis. So it's like it's so difficult to falter these guys when they've come back and they're still just looking hot. It doesn't look like they've slowed down at all. They haven't had to play a lot of maps. There's not a huge sample size, but it just seems like we're picking up where we left off last year, which is, I guess, concerning, because as soon as the circuit starts and it gets going, if these other teams don't take a page out of the Astralis book and go to less events, then Astralis are just going to keep getting further ahead. Like, unless they get complacent, how is anybody going to stop them?
But this is something that we actually touched on last year, like what we thought was going to happen next year and stuff. And this is like, for me, if Astralis do win the major, and obviously we all kind of feel like they will, then it's just on track, right? We were talking about like the other teams, prioritizing a little bit more, and it could probably take like another year of Astralis semi-dominating the scene for teams to actually start understanding that and like taking proper care of themselves and everything like that together. So I feel like we're on course for that, because we haven't seen any of the teams so far. Well, okay, like some of the teams actually did skip like the first couple of events, MIBR being one of them. MIBR previously were a team that attended everything, right? While this time they actually didn't, and that I assume that was a choice. I assume they got invited to one of those two, IBA Power E-League, and potentially like I'm trying to remember what else was played in the meantime. I imagine they got invited and they just decided against it, just to spend it actually practicing with the new lineup. So like, teams will start understanding this once they see that Australia just continue dominating.
I have one point just to make about the whole nuke train thing. I started thinking like, oh, Liquid have a new player. It's Stewie. Stewie played in Cloud9. Stewie played in MIBR. Two teams that didn't play nuke that much. So I went into his like nuke history.
Yeah.
He has 9 nuke games played in his career. 9.
Oh.
Last one played in 2017 in August, and then the next one before that was like 3 months before that. So he has not been playing nuke actively for quite a while. So that how will that play off? I mean, we saw like Alex on Vitality not playing Inferno and then struggling on that map for like quite a while. Maybe now
Liquid already kind of dropped a nuke compared to towards the end of last year.
Someone actually just put in the chat like that, I don't know, Elise's Instagram, there's a video of them practicing nuke. That can also be like a mind game.
But the thing
whatever.
is, like, I think they still play it. It's just like they're probably putting a lot more focus on other maps just because they know they're not going to play it against Astralis. Because that's what they did last year. Like, towards the end of last year, they finally understood that, like, trying to beat them on nuke is just not going to work. So they just, like, straight off started banning it. But obviously, they still had it in their pocket against any other team. Basically, they were still the second best team on nuke, most likely, or one of the best teams anyway. So that's the thing. Like, they can still play it against anybody else, I'm sure. They could, but it's unlikely that with the time that they had, like, they still haven't had that much time together. They've had about a month and a half of real practice, not even that potentially with how long they've been at the major. But just generally, I would assume they're not playing nuke rather than train at this point.
Me too.
Just because of the Astralis angle.
And especially if that ends up being like their first nuke game played, like in the grand final of the major, even the playoff of the major, it could be scary. Even though I don't think any of these teams will pick it against them, and then they'll just ban it out later.
What did they ban against Navi again? That was Train, right?
Yeah, I think so.
And Navi didn't pick nuke.
Yeah, because Navi isn't gonna pick.
Yeah, Navi they're not that great on nuke.
I'm curious if FaZe try and bring in nuke at all, because they left it in a couple of their games, right? They floated it a couple of times, and in that Cloud9 series, it was the third map, which tells me we already saw Cloud9 play it. They had the bit win strike on it, but like FaZe historically not a team to play nuke, right? So that's in the pool for them now as well. So there has to be. They wouldn't have floated it otherwise. I'd be more than confident that FaZe have been practicing nuke.
There's actually a pretty good point. We could actually see already. We should be able to see already in the Liquid ENCE match which map they actually do play. Yeah. Just because ENCE are actually good on both.
That's why I thought that Liquid would have removed Train against ENCE, which is what the map with, in my opinion, they look the best. And then from that point on, they can pick, whatever they feel the most comfortable on, and then ENCE are going to pick either nuke or Train.
Yeah,
like exactly. That's what I feel where ENCE would go with it, right? Like, I know that they lost to Renegades on nuke, but they would still consider their nuke to be one of their better maps.
They are still good on nuke, yeah.
Yeah. So we should know,
given what we know. Yeah.
After Thursday? No, after Thursday. After Thursday.
Yeah,
that's
Friday,
the first one.
The upper bracket, Astralis is playing Friday. So I think the upper bracket.
The bottom part is played first?
Yes.
Oh, okay. I didn't actually check the schedule. Fair enough. Okay, so yeah, Thursday we'll see. Because that should tell us a lot already, like which map they actually don't play. But it's weird that they actually haven't really been banning nuke though.
I mean, I think people just respect their history on the map, and they probably played it in practice. But how good they are on it, that remains to be seen. And I think.
Nobody has called them out on
it. Picking it against them is like how they want to try it out, probably, just to see how good they are. Because they still have their pick in the decider that they're pretty comfortable that they'll win, even if like nuke goes wrong.
That could be a big tell, yeah. And potentially the same against Navi, even though Navi is probably not going to pick nuke either way. At least we wouldn't think so.
Yeah. That's it.
Wow. Well, there in the end, it didn't seem that it's not really too much of a surprising factor.
No.
I think what it really comes down to is you can't predict all the way to the end, really, like on all of it, until we fucking see what happens on the open in a few days, and that'll be the telling sign, especially for, like you guys were saying, right, a team like Liquid, where with this current iteration, we have not seen everything they've got to offer just yet.
Same with a lot of these teams, unfortunately. The only two teams that we've seen everything that they have, or probably at least 90% of the tank, is ENCE and Renegades. Everybody else has had the luxury of just coming in for this later stage. Na'Vi only had to play a handful of maps, Astralis a handful of maps, Liquid a handful of maps. You look at FaZe, they had to battle through, and they weren't convincing in a lot of their matches. You could say the similar things for MIBR. You know, they weren't hugely convincing, but they got the job done. So once we get to this stage, this is where it all changes, because the pressure is applied. The pressure cook is turned up here to 10. So this is it. This is kind of where it's make or break for those teams, and we can see if they just got through on merit, like on just doing a basic job in the legend stage, or if they're really here to play and they've put in a lot of work and they've really deepened their map pool. But I think with everything we know right now, you have to favor Astralis overall. That's simple as that.
Yes. Agreed.
Well, that brings us to the end, and our next show will be after all this is unfolded. And then we'll have so much information to take away from it all. If anyone gets the bed or not, if anyone goes forward, it's going to be an interesting major. We haven't had the best major yet, and I'm sure it will end that way as well. I'm looking forward to see it all go down. So, thank you guys for joining us. Thank you, Chad, Striker, and Prof. As always, it's going to be a lot of fun to watch this all happen, all the action kicking off. We will see you next week. Same place, same time. What will the actual date be? It will be the 4th of February. That's when we're doing it.
I'll try to push it to the 5th, actually, just to get some time off before. But we'll see. We'll see about the date. We didn't confirm it yet. It's like Tuesday or Wednesday.
Tuesday or Wednesday. Fair enough. All right. So either the 5th or the 6th is when we want to do it. It'll be 8 p.m. CET. Regardless, guys, enjoy it. Enjoy the major. Watch it all. Have some good luck with your pick'ems. Remember, if you are doing your pick'ems, don't just have to follow us. You can make your own minds and decisions on it. And we will see you all next week.